Yep. Arthur Clore. Madeline Michler.
Here.
Alex Wu. Amy Gary. Anna Taylor.
Here.
Emery Round Sorensen. Blake Tolliver.
Here.
Brian Schultz. I got you, Arthi. Cameron McColgan.
Here.
Kathy Minetti-Zhao. Kara Fleegle. Carter Gangle.
Here.
Dan Risser.
Here.
Okay. And Brian, I got you as well. Emmanuel Amante.
Here.
Aaron Bose.
Here.
John Mark Miller.
Here.
Joshua Reynolds.
Here.
Kaylee Quinnen. Tara DeLucio.
Here.
Kelly Snyder.
Here.
Kyle Quinn.
Here.
Lakin Meter. Lewis Richardson.
Here.
Marie Meisner.
Here.
Maddie McIntyre.
Here.
Megan Dalo.
Here.
Rajay Rodriguez.
Here.
Noah Robertson.
Here.
Patricia Brangi. Patty. Rainier Foley Di Fiore.
Here.
Raina Alexander.
Here.
Refugio Lara.
Here.
Ryan Lascalzo. Samantha Brown.
Here.
Sarah Jordan.
Here.
Siddhi Deshpande.
Here.
Sophia Pulio. Sophie. Sydney Gibbard.
Here.
And Sharu Shi.
Here.
Was anyone's name not called?
There's some in the chat, in case.
Yep, I got those, I think.
All right. Cool. We'll keep moving on. And before we actually do, 2 reminders. If you could please include your pronouns after your first name, since the little square that you're given in Zoom does cut off if you do have a longer name. Just so please include that. Right now, you do have the ability to rename yourself. And also, this is the second to last assembly. So if you are able to, please turn your camera on. Again, this is the last of the 15th assembly. For me, I'm a senior and I would love to see your faces. I understand if you can't, and if you're in a place or an environment where you can't, but if any ever possible, would love that. All right, as we keep moving down, we have the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any motions to be made? If so, please raise your hand. Representative Gibbard.
Hi, Sydney Gibbard, College of Engineering. I motion to add Bill 2315, funding for sexual violence awareness and prevention 2021 tabling to the agenda as line item, whatever the line item is.
All right, I do see a second. Is there any discussion on this? All right, seeing no discussion, it passes with general consensus and as line item E. Are there any other motions to be made? And yeah, I meant to say second to last. I thought I said second to last, so apologies if not. All right. Seeing no other motions, we'll move on to adoption of the meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion on the past general meeting minutes, we will move on to a special presentation by Dr. Micah Griffin, who's the Senior Director for University Health Services. Welcome, Micah. We're very excited to have you, and thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday night. As a reminder, you'll have 5 minutes to speak and then 10 minutes for questions, and you do have screen sharing abilities if you do have a PowerPoint or presentation. But again, thank you for coming in.
Definitely. Good evening, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good to see everybody. Good to see you again, Lexi. For those that didn't know, me and Lexi are cousins. We go way back. I say that every time I see you. I'm just claiming it because you're gonna be really famous one day, and I just want to try to get on your coattail before you take off. So me and Lexi cousins, by the way. Just wanted to share that. But excited to be here. It's been a long day, and I just had some coffee, so this is what y'all gonna get. You only gave me 5 minutes, by the way, to talk. Can I have more than that? I made a presentation and everything. I only get 5 minutes.
I can give you, I do extend it a little, especially people,
Okay.
if they have presentations. I'll give you 7 minutes. if
7 is
that's okay.
perfect. I was hoping you wouldn't say 6. Let's go on 7. 7 is a number of, what is 7? Number of completion or something? I don't know. But good to see everybody. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you so much for, again, just inviting me to come join you all tonight. 7 is a beautiful number. Thank you all for inviting me to join us tonight. And first of all, I just want to say how honored I am to be here. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. For those that have met me or had a chance to interact with me, as many of you know, I am 1,000% student-centered. I love engaging with students more than I love even talking to my own staff sometimes, but don't tell them I said that. Is there any faculty or staff on this call? Because they might, some of them are snitches, so I got to be careful, man. I got to make sure the snitches get stitches. No, I'm joking, they don't. Snitches actually solve crimes and reduce the crime rate, which actually leads to improving. I'm gonna stop talking, but good to see everybody again. Yes, I do have a short presentation to go over tonight, but like I said, thank you so much for inviting me to this session tonight, and it's excited to be talking with you all, not just about my role here as the new Senior Director of UHS, but really just the direction that I see stitches at UHS. Y'all gotta stop putting stuff in the chat because I'm gonna get distracted. But also wanted to talk about the exciting things that I think UHS has done in the past. But like I said, also just to really talk about kind of where I see the direction of not just UHS, but wellness and well-being and where that's going at Penn State and both supporting you all as students. So I'll go ahead and do a quick little screen share here. And I hope I picked the right screen so y'all won't be judging me because it's been a long day. Is this the right one? Yeah, here we go. Can you all see that? Okay,
Yeah.
Let's make that bigger. There we go. So I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about, like I said, kind of the direction that I believe UHS has positioned itself, but also the direction that I think UHS can go, not just in supporting actual healthcare delivery, but how can we improve the overall campus culture of well-being? And it's not just a university health services staff position. I think students are playing an important role in that because you all are why we're here. Like you are the reason that I'm here. You are the reason that all of these staff members and faculty members are here at Penn State. So it's important to remember that. And I try to preface that at every student meeting that I'm a part of. Please keep that in mind. Like we are here to service you. If you weren't here as students, I would have no job. I would have no benefits. I wouldn't have no retirement package. It would be a struggle. So I thank you all for just paying your tuition on time. And those that didn't, there are scholarships still available to pay your tuition so I can make sure I get my Christmas bonus. But creating a campus culture of well-being is what I wanted to talk about tonight. And how I wanted to start that was just kind of giving you an overview for those that don't know of the boring part of you, not the boring part, the mission and vision, which actually what guides our organization or what should be guiding our organization and our work. And I thought that was important to preface it with that. I said preface twice. I can't say that the third time. Preface. I don't even know where that came from. Preface. Do y'all use prefacing? I don't know where that came from. But I had to begin with the mission and vision because, like I said, I believe that's the foundation of what supports what we're doing, but also what guides our work. And I'm somebody who doesn't just believe a mission or a vision is just words. I believe that should reflect what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I know that many of you have had experiences with UHS in the past, and whether they have been positive or negative or just neutral where you didn't have any feelings at all, I'm hoping that that experience will change if it was negative. Because like I said, one thing that I'm really trying to do just in my initial experience that I've been here a couple months, but definitely in the direction that I see UHS going is to support students and to ensure that our mission and vision isn't just words on a screen or words on a piece of paper or on a flyer, but that we really are living this day in and day out with what we're doing. and that it directly correlates to our actual care delivery and how we see our health outcomes and the experience that you have as students when you come into UHS or you engage in any type of UHS activities that happen across campus, especially when we get back in person. So I just wanted to put that on the screen for those of you that didn't know. I'm not going to read through it because everybody on here can read, right? Can everybody read? I mean, if you can, it's fine. I mean, being illiterate is not something to be ashamed of. I'm pretty sure they have tutoring and everything. But if you can't read that, just let me know and I'll make sure I provide it for you all. But I wanted to drop a couple stats just for context. And this isn't a statistic that came actually from Penn State, but this is overall. So we're talking about colleges and universities in general. So 51% of students nationwide believe that health and well-being are a priority at their college or university. So I'm not going to ask for answers to this, but just think about that from the college that you're at, Penn State. Like, do you believe that Penn State places the health and well-being of you as a priority? Like, don't answer that, but just think about that. Think about your interactions. If you're a senior or a junior, just think about the time you spent here at Penn State when it wasn't a pandemic. And just think about the service, the activities, how things were communicated, what emphasis, where the resources went to, because one secret you will learn when you graduate, if you haven't already, people can tell you how much they care about you, but where the money goes is where people's hearts will follow. So whichever department on campus has the biggest budget of football is probably where people, I didn't mean to say that. I got a little thing in my throat. I don't have COVID. I got both my shots, so I got the vaccine. But I'm just saying, where people's money goes is usually where their priorities are. So as you're navigating through the rest of your college journey or even through your career, people can give you all these lovey-dovey, words and phrases and stickers and hashtags, but look at where the budget is. And where the budget resides, where the money resides, where the budget resides is usually where the focus is going to be. So just think about that. And I just wanted to put that statistic on here because 51 might seem like a high number, but that means that the other half don't believe that it's a priority. So if health and well-being is not a priority at your college or university at Penn State, then what is the priority? And I think that's something we really need to talk about and unpack, not just tonight, but as we're moving towards this space of wellness and well-being. And another one, 75% of students nationwide believe that overall stress levels are moderate to high. So just think about your stress level. How stressed are you right now? And stress is a real thing. Like, stress isn't just something that is about how you feel. Stress is really a physiological reaction in your body that alters the chemical imbalances in your brain that can shape your DNA for generations. Like, that's inherited. Like, PTSD is something that's inherited, and stress is a real thing. So don't ever let anybody tell you that you're stressed from worrying about a test or an exam or your boyfriend or girlfriend or any of that is not relevant because it's not important to them. That's a stress level that you perceive to be impactful on your life. And it can alter the way that you sleep, the way you think, the way you process things, the way you perform in your classrooms. So this is a high number. And this is something that I just wanted to put on the screen because it's very important. And even though UHS is not directly focused on improving the mental stability and the mental wellness of students, I believe you can't have this conversation about well-being without talking about the mental health and the mental fitness of students. So I know I'm running close to time, so I'll kind of breeze through these. This is just my idea of what a campus health program should look like. So as we're talking about where UHS is and where UHS is going, if you want to get an idea of the type of leader that I am and the vision that I have for health services on campus, and notice when I say health services and well-being, I'm not just talking about UHS. I'm talking about CAPS. I'm talking about HPW. I'm talking about all of the services that are here to support students. So this is just kind of an idea. If you ask me, like, what are the top 4 things or the pillars that is going to shape my tenure here as the senior director, is going to be these 4. It's going to be integrative, equitable, collaborative, and student-centered. And I'll definitely share this presentation with you, Lexi, or the other leadership. So if any of you all wanted to, look at this or, copy and paste it, just give me credit if you do. If you use this for, just give me credit. Just put a little something on there. And then the last 2 things I wanted to talk about was a healthy campus culture, because this is the direction that I'm trying to move as a leader of UHS. It's not just ensuring that we provide great ambulatory health care, but how are we actually improving the culture on campus? Like, how are your professors talking about health? How are they perceiving it? How are they even knowing how to recognize warning signs when there's a student of concern that needs care? How is the campus community structured to support these things? And if you talk about a healthy campus culture, these are some of the elements that I think are important to support that. It goes from public health preparedness, education and advocacy, and some of these other elements. But like I said, you have to have a plan and a vision. And that's exactly what I'm trying to paint for you all tonight, is that there is a vision coming from my leadership, and this is something that we're planning on doing. The last thing I wanted to talk about was future trends, because you can't talk about where we're at without talking about where we're going in college health. And these are I mean, I can probably list 10 or 20 different elements, but I think these 5 elements are going to be important for college health. And I put social determinants of health in the center because if you don't know, health equity, health promotion, and outreach are 2 areas that I'm extremely passionate about. So I think if you aren't a senior and if you're going to be here or go to graduate school here, or if you have more time after this semester to be at Penn State, I can almost guarantee you that you will see a shift with how we talk about health and wellness on this campus. But I just wanted to list here just a couple ideas and perspectives that I have around what is the future trends in college health that we're going to see. And you see here, you mean we can't talk about well-being without talking about racial justice and health equity combined, because those 2 things aren't separated. And racial justice and racism can't be talked about without talking about how that impacts the wellness and the well-being of students. But like I said, that was just kind of my overview of, I don't know how to stop sharing my screen. I'm an old man. I just got a TikTok the other day and I've been on it. It's ridiculous. I got on TikTok and if you look at too many of them, it'll something that'll come up and it'll be like, hey, you've been on TikTok too long. You should go get something to eat. And I was like, I ain't hungry. Swipe up. All right, I'm gonna be quiet. That was my presentation. I mean, I could have spent an hour talking about that, but I hope you all were able to gain some insight in just my vision and kind of what I'm looking forward to doing. So I'll kind of go on mute now. And if there are any questions or comments or feedback, definitely go ahead and shoot.
Yeah, and we'll open up the period for questions. And Representative Fleegle, you may start off.
Kara Fleegle, Eberly College of Science. Hi, Micah. Thank you so much for being here today. Something that's been brought to my concern over the last few months is that students are struggling to find a safe location to take doctor's appointments, especially therapy appointments that happen every week. I was wondering what resources are available for students to take these appointments and just have like a safe space they can go to.
When you say take these appointments, do you mean like a telehealth visit, or you mean in person, or?
Yeah, like a telehealth visit, just students who are receiving online therapy or online doctor's appointments.
So just so I'm understanding, students that are physically on campus but doing a telehealth visit, or are you saying students that aren't on campus?
Students that are on campus doing telehealth visits. Sorry for the confusion there. Yeah,
no problem. That is a concern, and that's something, as you saw on that last slide, it is talking about telehealth. So actually before this year, even though I wasn't here, but Penn State virtual wasn't even a thing. Like there wasn't even a lot of talk around even knowing how to do that. And that was something they had to pivot to almost immediately when the pandemic first happened. So they are still learning and navigating those nuances, but that was honestly something that I hadn't even really considered as far as a student having a safe space on campus to actually take that visit. So like, I'll just be honest, we haven't even really considered that as even a challenge. So honestly, I think that's important that you brought that up, because that's something that I'll definitely take back to our team to discuss. But in the realm of a healthcare visit, because I can't really speak too much for CAPS, but I mean, they're kind of in the same boat. I think that is important. And we are actually looking at dedicating space in our summer plans and even going into fall, where students can actually still come into the health center, but still do those visits in like a private telehealth suite. So that is something we discussed from an internal perspective. But now that you brought that up, that is something I think we should talk about probably with Residence Life or even student care and advocacy to see, what that looks like. And that's one of the things that we often miss as administrators, is that we assume that, you as a student, you have a place to go, take this visit. But that's something that's very important. And like I said, we haven't really given much thought into that, but I can guarantee you that's something I'll bring up to our staff, because now that I'm really thinking through that, I can see that presenting a lot of challenges.
Thank you so much. And let me know if you have anything that they say in response to that. I would love to be in contact to find out more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me your name again.
Kara Fleegle. I can put my email in the chat if that works.
Okay. Yeah, do that for me, please.
All right. Are there any other questions? Representative Foley?
Yeah, hi. Micah, I know we have limited time, and I wish I had more time to hear you talk about your vision for UHS, but I would love to hear you share a little more about your vision for health equity at Penn State, because this is a huge area of improvement, I think, for Penn State especially. And I would love to hear more about what your vision for health equity and racial justice is through UHS at Penn State.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that question. So something that I've actually just started talking to, and I think is Najee. I think I heard Najee. Is Najee here?
Hey.
Najee, what's up, man? How you doing,
What's
man?
up?
I miss you, man. I ain't seen you in a while, man. How you doing?
I'm seeing you Friday.
Yeah, I know, man. That's why I miss you, man. See, I know everybody already, man. I know everybody virtually, but not to dive too much into our plans, just because they're so very fresh and new. I'm just making up stuff. Words don't even go together. But not to give too much details, but just a little background just about me. So the majority of my experience has been working in health equity and eliminating health disparities. I got my start working in public health, where my entire role was supporting communities of color around mental health equity and developing programs and structures that improve access. So how does that translate to a college environment? So the previous institution I was at was the City University of New York in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn Beat, is anybody from Brooklyn? No? Okay, too soon? All right, never mind. So I was in New York, and one of the things, as you can imagine, New York is a very diverse environment. So when I got here, as you can imagine, it was a little different. You know, I was, looked at the staff of UHS, and I'll just be transparent. I was scrolling up, looking at pictures, and I was like, oh, nobody looks like me. Hold on, there's got to be more. Let me keep scrolling. Maybe it's page 2. Let me go page 2. Okay, nothing on page 2. Okay, let me go to page 3. Nothing on page 3. Okay, so we got some challenges. And then when I looked at utilization, which is a very valid point to look at, which students are actually coming into our university health services, as you can imagine, students of color are a very low denominator. So how do we improve that? Like, what can we do to address that? So I started working with Najee and several other students to look at how we create or improve access, whether it's providing funding for either physicals or services and support, but not even just the funding piece. How can we encourage and improve these health-seeking behaviors? So something we've been having conversation about is creating some type of center or some type of initiative or organization that actually looks at and focuses on student health equity from a healthcare lens, where it's not just the prevention method, but it's also how can we address some of these other social determinants of health. And it's a big lift. I will tell you that now, like even just getting people to understand how racism correlates to health outcomes is a huge lift. And it's not just for students. Like, these are conversations that I'm having at the directors and at the vice president level to see how these things correlate. So to answer your question in the short term is that we are having conversations on a daily basis with my staff, but also there are some things in the works with Najee and some other students to create something, like I just mentioned, that would probably take the shape of like a center for student health equity or something in that sense, that is housed within UHS, but has several arms that are in the place of, advocacy and outreach, education, but also looking at improving access to those care and to those services. And one thing that I did fail to mention was I also sit on the board of directors for an organization called American College Health Association, which is one of the largest college health associations in the country. And one of our biggest priorities is improving health equity. So we actually are in the process of developing some guidelines and a framework that colleges can actually adopt and use within their health centers and health promotion centers. And being one of the authors on those guidelines, you can almost guarantee that we're going to have those elements in our organizational plan and our strategic plan going forward. So to be continued is the summary to that answer. It's getting late. I had a long day. Forgive me.
Yeah, man. That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, really quick, any student, as I'm talking, like I know there are a lot of students on this call, like it's gonna take the work of everybody. Like I can have all the amazing ideas in the world, but trust me, I can get a whole lot more done when I have the voice and the power of students. When there are students that are voicing these concerns and speaking to administration, no matter how many times you say it, if you say it over and over again and you're organized and strategic and you have a mission and you have an idea about what you want to change, like we can do anything. So as I'm saying these things, if this is something that's sparking some interest in you, are you just like, yeah, I want to be a part of this? Like, please, please, please reach out to me and let's get organized and get this done. Because I'm here in service to y'all. I just wanted to make sure I put that out there.
All right, Representative Reynolds.
Hi, Josh Reynolds at large. This is a somewhat more specific question, but in terms of helping make sure that students do really have access to the services when they need them, is there any discussion or planning for perhaps expansion of hours or maybe opening up on weekends? Because I know for myself, I crashed my bike and broke a bone on a Saturday, and I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't know whether or not my insurance might cover it there, whereas I knew it did here, and I had never really gone off by myself to a hospital before. And so I waited 2 days before I went into UHS and they checked me out. So is there any way that we could see a movement towards making sure that UHS is available for students in those emergency situations more often, especially for those who might not have the greatest insurance at other places?
It's a lot to unpack right there. You said a whole lot. First of all, you had a broke foot for 2 days. Is that what you said? You were on a broke foot?
Broken bone, it was my hand.
For 2 days?
Before, yeah.
Man,
I didn't realize I broke it.
So you just was out here just playing PlayStation with one hand? Like how was you doing that for 2 days? I'm joking. No, don't answer that. I'm
kept
joking,
holding.
man. I'm joking, man. I'm joking. But that's a lot to unpack there. One being, what is student health services? Like, and that's been the conversation that is not just here at Penn State, but just nationally. Like, is the student health center a urgent care emergency facility? Is it a outpatient healthcare facility? Is it an ambulatory? Like, how are we defining that as a student health center? And that's a rhetorical question. Like, I'm just putting that out there. Once we define what that is, then we will be able to determine our shape or be able to respond to urgent matters or emergencies, like what you're seeing or what you just mentioned. The problem is that the mission or the foundation or the ideology of University Health Services is the opposite of what you just described as what you would need during that time. So University Health Services is not technically considered an urgent care facility. So what does that mean? That means that we have set hours just like a doctor's office would have. Now I understand completely. It presents a lot of challenges where you have a college campus that essentially is a 24/7 community. Like, you know, things are happening 24/7, 365. Well, maybe not 365, but things are happening all the time. So you would expect certain services like, you know, healthcare or even CAPS or different things to be available 24/7. The problem is, and y'all might not care about this, the problem is that there's a lot of behind the scenes logistical pieces that would have to happen to extend hours, to make, you know, staffing available after hours. It would take a heavy lift. Now, with that being said, the answer it's not a straight no. Like, I'm definitely would be open to exploring that option, whether it was like a reduced clinic that was available during certain hours, or even another element of that is discussing what does the student health insurance plan actually cover, and what does even your private health insurance cover. We have two boards that we have in University Health Services. We have a student advisory board and we have a student insurance advisory board. I'm gonna just be honest and put y'all on blast. It's not a whole lot of students on either one of these boards. So we need to change that. Now there are students on there, but what I'm saying is that some of the issues that I'm even hearing just in these couple of questions, those are the types of issues that those boards, where those issues need to be presented. Because at those boards, you have myself, you have other directors, you have, you know, minutes being taken, you have agendas, you have the ability and the power for action to come from that. Now, that doesn't mean that you come and you sit on the board and you make a suggestion like that and it's going to happen, but it does mean that you have an influence over decisions that are made in UHS, whether it's the type of insurance that we're providing, whether it's what's available, whether it's how much a deductible is, whether it's something like hours. Like, these are the platforms where we need this student voice. Because just like what was mentioned earlier about having a space for you to take telehealth visits, I would have never even considered that. Our staff doesn't even consider or think about those things. But when you have a platform in a setting like a student insurance advisory board and a student advisory board, that's where decisions like that are possibly made. And that's where we're able to discuss it, to come up with an action plan, and to put things in place where we might not be able to be open 24 hours a day, but if we have enough discussion and there's enough thought put behind it, we can strategically extend our hours. Now, I'm not saying that's the only place that could happen, but what I'm saying is those are two platforms where we need student representation to be on there, because it holds us accountable as well, because we got to be held accountable sometimes too. So to answer your question in the short form, yes, there is a possibility we can do that, but it would take a lot of planning and logistical pieces to see what that would look like. But I'm 100% open to having that conversation and talking about that further.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Definitely. Thank you for that question.
All right, I am going to close the floor for questions since we are out of time. But Micah,
the floor
thank you
closed?
so, yeah, the floor's
The floor is
closed.
closed? Dang, man.
But regardless, we are so thankful that you took time out of your Wednesday night to talk to us. It's always a pleasure.
I'm sorry. I just was looking at the comments real quick. Like, y'all are really funny, man. But I'm gonna put my email address in the chat box real quick. So like I said, please reach out to me. If there's anything that I can do, if there's any challenges or issues. Did I put my right email address? All right. If there's anything I can do, if there's any challenges, issues, like anything, even if it's not related to healthcare, if you got an issue with somebody on campus, you need me to put somebody in the trunk, let me know. The trunk piece was rhetorical. I'm really not gonna put nobody in the trunk. I got saved several years ago, and I don't choose violence on no days unless somebody say something sideways. Hey, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I just want to empower y'all, and thank y'all so much for the work you're doing on this UPUA. You are really what keeps this conversation and keeps this campus going, no matter what anybody says. Thank y'all so much. If I can be of service at all, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. Y'all take care. Have a good night.
Thank
too.
you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
We will, all right. We will keep moving down the agenda with Open Student Forum. If you are here for Open Student Forum, please raise your hand. And if you're an attendee, I can see your hand raised and we'll be able to give you speaking abilities. I do see some hands. All right, Jeremy, if you could state your name and academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak and you should be able to speak now.
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Jeremy. I'm part of the College of Liberal Arts. I'm also a sophomore. I thought this was rather relevant given the recent, speaking of the UHS speaker, director, I'm sorry. So someone told me it was director. I'm terribly sorry about that. I've had a really interesting experience with UHS that, kind of is a testament to the need for increased efficiency. When I was a freshman, got some sort of infection in my lungs and went to about 6 appointments over 4 weeks. I got progressively worse every single week, and they still wouldn't give me any sort of medication that I needed. A nurse sat me down, told me I might have cancer. Granted, not a doctor, not somebody that should be giving those sorts of opinions, but granted, nurses are important, but there was no reason to tell me that, and it created quite of a scare. So I know there's certainly room for improvement, and I thought that might have been a relevant thing to bring up.
Oh, thank you for coming and speaking to us. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going down. Again, if you are here for Open Student Forum and if you raise your hand, even if you're an attendee, I can see it. And I'll move on to Divya. Divya, if you could say your name and academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Divya. I'm a senior and I am in Eberly College. And I wanted to come here tonight to express my support for an initiative, I think a resolution that y'all are talking about today about divestment. I think it's a really good segue. I just want to highlight something that Dr. Griffin said. He mentioned that you have to pay attention to where money goes, because where money goes, that's where the interests are. And so if we look at, what Penn State is doing with its endowment and where it's investing that money, we can figure out what the priorities of the institution are. And so I think that students have a really big power, and y'all as UPUA advocate for us, for the students. And so just wanted to say that there are many students who are in favor of divestment and of Penn State using that money to reinvest in the green economy.
Thank you for coming out and speaking to us. All right, Abigail, if you could state your name and academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Abigail Laporta. I'm in the College of Engineering, and I would like to basically echo everything that Divya said. I am here to express my support for the resolution for divestment from fossil fuels that UPUA is considering today. Yeah, like Divya and Dr. Griffin said, where the money goes is where we are putting our stock in for what we care about and for our future. And Penn State, as an institution of higher education, should be looking towards its students' future and should be investing in an economy that's sustainable and in greener solutions. So I strongly support this resolution to divest from fossil fuels, and I am looking forward to UPUA considering it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and speaking to us. All right, is there anyone else here for Open Student Forum? And thank you to everyone that has come out. We do appreciate it. All right, seeing no one else here for Open Student Forum, we'll keep moving down to report by the president. President McKay.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you're doing well. I'll echo what Lexi said. I want to thank every student who came out to speak tonight. to your student government. We certainly heard everything that you had to say, and I know that I already plan to reach out to a few with some ideas right off the bat. But if any representative has a similar idea, please feel free to reach out to those students and see really where we can get the ball rolling on some of those things. I also want to thank Dr. Griffin and the UHS for coming to speak tonight about everything that that Dr. Griffin is doing. It's really awesome to have him come in. Kind of jealous that he's cousins with Lexi, but certainly agree with the fact that she's going places. So I guess I get to say something like that someday too. There was a press conference that we held yesterday and shared quite a bit, so I won't repeat much of it, but ironically, a lot of news has come about since. If you have been living under a rock, I'm really unfortunate. I'm really unfortunate to tell you that Chick-fil-A will be leaving the hub dining facilities after the spring 2021 semester. And they'll be replaced by Slim Chickens. Never had that. I don't know what it's like. I've heard good things. There are people who swear by it as actually being better than Chick-fil-A, but I'll leave that to you to decide. That was just announced this morning at a hub advisory board meeting, which Lexi and I were invited to. So very important news on that front. Additionally, it was announced that seniors will enjoy an in-person graduation ceremony. There won't be any walking, but your name and a few other identifiers will appear on screen. You'll be able to bring 2 guests as well. And beyond that, don't really know how it will work. I'm excited that there'll be something in person and understand, given the circumstances, that this is what it's going to look like. I believe it's Rutgers who's using cardboard cutouts of the administrators as they walk across the stage. And certainly one way to do things. This is maybe a different one that involves fewer cardboard cutouts. It was also announced that first-year students, including those here in this room, will get to watch the football game at a final spring practice of the teams. Pretty exciting stuff. I really empathize with the seniors who, myself being one of them, who would love to watch the team again in Beaver Stadium before we graduate. But I'm also looking at it through the lens, and I'd encourage you to do it too, that I got to enjoy a football game my first year. I am certain that many of you did as well. That's a really formative experience that helped shape my Penn State career and experience. As silly as that sounds, it's true. And I'm really excited that the first year students will get that opportunity as well, at least before they enter their sophomore year. Some internal UPUA things. This Saturday, in place of a regular cabinet meeting, I'll host an executive policy council, which is essentially a way to get the cabinet together talking specifically about the initiatives that Lexi and I ran on this past year. We'll invite the steering committee, and together we'll all recap the things, like I just said, that our administration focused on, cover how we can wrap up any loose ends that still need to be wrapped up in the next week or week and a half. Sheesh. And then discuss the future of any longer term projects that we advocated for in the past. We'll also have a follow-up meeting regarding the 2018 sexual misconduct survey data on the 24th of March. And after that meeting, I'll be able to update you all with an update beyond that, which we've been covering in our press conferences. Essentially, they have been hard at work trying to compile all of that data. They have University Park pretty much figured out and are about halfway through, probably a little bit more by now, finished up with the Commonwealth campuses. Student trustee meetings are going well. There's only so much that I can share there, but we're in the process and feeling confident about everything going on there. Our final CCSG council session will be this Friday. Lexi and I will be there. We'll deliver a report on behalf of the UPUA as always. You'll be able to read that on the UPUA website as well. You probably got an email from me this morning about the student fee board. Applications are open and they close on April 2nd. It's a really great opportunity to help represent the student opinion on where a lot of our finances go, like Dr. Griffin was mentioning, and many of you reminded us, keep an eye out where the money is going. And in this case, we have quite a good say in where millions of dollars are going. So really exciting things. You can watch it in action if anybody's interested. This Friday at 8 a.m. we'll be voting on a few different things, including the Gender Equity Center, the PRCC, student orientation transition programs, UPAC, Student Farm, Student Legal Services, the STI testing program through the UHS, a bike master plan, which will essentially enable us to focus on how we can create a better bike infrastructure here on campus by bringing in somebody to help figure out that kind of a plan and coordinate it. I'm excited about that one, as you can tell. The Environmental Sustainability Fund, and much more. So coming out Friday, 8 a.m. I know that's just what everybody wants to do on Friday at 8, but you can watch it in action. And then very lastly, Capitol Day is on Thursday, March 25th, probably one of the most exciting days of the year. It'll all be virtual, but last year we didn't have it. So, really excited to kind of continue that tradition. Any student who's interested can visit advocate.psu.edu to learn more. You'll get an email reminder again on the 25th. So if you forget up until that date, don't worry. But advocate.psu.edu is your friend if you want to learn more about how to get involved. That's all I have, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions for President McKay?
Can I ask a question to the assembly?
Sure.
Has anybody had Slim Chickens? Like, is anybody familiar with the replacement?
Representative Fleegle has.
Ooh, a lot of thoughts coming in here. Okay, thanks. This is really helpful. In some way, we can pass along this information. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions for President McKay, we'll move on to my report. I will just reiterate, please add your pronouns to your name, preferably after your first name, just so that it's visible on the Zoom screen. I do say it in the beginning of every meeting, but I would really like you to do that if you haven't already. And then I'll continue with thank you to Micah. If you haven't ever met with him or spoken to him, I really encourage you to do so. He's one of the most liveliest people I've met, and I'm very jealous that you guys get to work with him as I am graduating soon. But yeah, so please, if you have any ideas and if you have any concerns, he is someone that will definitely hear you out. So I was very excited for him to come speak to us today. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed your wellness day last Thursday, and I hope it was a true wellness day where you took some time away from your screen, your phone, whatever it is, and just enjoyed the day. I know there's one more coming up in April, and it'll actually be after election, so I hope that's an even more rewarding one for everyone. In terms of scheduling, I attended the SFAP roundtable last week and gave a slight update in terms of where the survey results are. I'm very happy to be invited to those roundtable discussions, and thank you, Sydney and Representative Gibbard and Representative DeLucio for inviting me. I also attended a banners meeting with Chair Rodriguez just to kind of wrap up the logistics of the banners that will be coming out next semester, if anything, early summer. Just seeing if we can, just being as inclusive as possible in terms of our messaging, and Chair Rodriguez will most likely also report on that further in his report at the end of the meeting. As President McKay mentioned, the Hub Advisory Board met this morning, and there is the change for Chick-fil-A leaving at the end of the semester. The only thing I'll say is that we cannot have a candlelight vigil in the Hub since there are no open flames allowed. So we were told to do a flashlight vigil. Take that with what you will. Also, I will be attending the meeting on Friday for the Lion Cash gift card vouchers. I know there's a number of us attending that, so I'm looking forward to that discussion and also seeing kind of the updates and seeing how else we can do something like that in the following year, just because COVID has not ended and there are still people struggling in terms of finances and just even with bare necessities. So if there's any way that we can help, I hope that we can do that. There will be the UPUA town hall this Friday. If you'd like to tune in, feel free to. I highly encourage you to ask questions, tell your friends about it, to submit questions. It'll probably be the last one for Zach and I, as our terms are slowly ending. So yeah, if you can make it, I would love to see some of your faces. We also, as President McKay mentioned, we have CCSG Council Weekend, which is our last one as well. And you will be able to see our report on the website if you don't come afterwards. So you'll be able to see our report and what we were able to report on. I will also be going on the hike this Sunday. Please forgive me. I think it's for Forest Day. Please correct me, President McKay. You're laughing, so tell me.
You're right. It's the International Day of Forests.
There you go. So I will be going on that hike and I'm very excited. So if anyone else would like to join, I know our executive director, Kelly, has invited UPUA. I think there's also a limit just in terms of COVID. So if that's something that interests you, please shoot a text to Kelly or me and I can direct you in the right place. Student fee board, we are voting. I think it's the last day of voting as well. So that will be occurring this Friday. If that's something that interests you, or if you're interested in being in student fee board in the following year, you want to see what it's like, feel free to attend that meeting at 8 a.m. Yeah, no, it's weird that it's the second to last meeting of the 15th Assembly. As always, I'm going to say it again. If you are able to turn on your cameras, I would love to see your faces for like the last 2 weeks of Assembly. And I am really nervous for next week because it's going to be an emotional mess. And for any new reps who aren't aware, the last Assembly is usually also one of a lot of goodbyes. So bring your tissues because I know I'll have mine. With that, I'll take any questions. And yay, thank you, Kelly. She dropped her number and everything in the chat if you are interested in that hike. All right. Seeing no questions for me, we'll move on to liaison reports. Is there anyone here who is a liaison or affiliate and has a report? If so, please raise your hand. Representative Bose.
Erin Bose, moving on. Spotlight series is still going on. It's a really great opportunity to share your artistic talent. And we're really looking for some more applications. So please go to movingon.org and refer it to your friends as well and apply for the Spotlight series.
All right, are there any questions for Representative Bose? All right, seeing none, are there any other liaison or affiliate reports? All righty, seeing none and seeing no old business, we will now move into a 5-minute caucus breakout.
I'm not sure what can be seen, but I'm on the old arcade machine at Pollock. This is one of my other favorite things here. If you ever get on it, like 1942, beautiful, classic, simple pixelated World War II playing game. Absolutely, absolute classic. It's, in my opinion, better than Galaga. Galaga, I feel, gets most of its hype just from the legacy status. 1942 is, in my personal opinion, a higher class of flying shooting game, but that's me.
Has that always been there?
Yeah, although the single person button doesn't work, so you have to either have a pencil or you just do two person and wait every time it's the second person's turn. Or, I mean, like you can find a friend and play with them, but that might be harder than finding a pencil.
Cool, thanks.
Absolutely. It's got like 60 games, and I'm not being cooperative right now. Trying. I think you're stuck on Donkey Kong. Oh, well. It's got all kinds of classics. It's got Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. It's got Dig Dug. It's got Galaga 2, 3, 1942. I don't know. Basically, any classic like arcade game you can think of, it probably has it. It's a beautiful little machine, and I hope to see the single person button fixed sometime while I'm here. But absolutely wonderful. Oh, Tony, you're missing out.
Joshua, I gotta say, watching you play the Dance Dance Revolution thing was one of the most impressive things I've seen.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. What is what like in this machine? So if you're in the Pollock Commons, like there's the main entrance, here's the pool table. This little thing here it's an old school arcade machine, and it took me like months to figure out that you don't actually need quarters to play it. It's just that for some reason, oh, there we go. I got it. No, what are you doing? What do you, no. I guess I'm doing Galaga now. Okay, or Space Invaders. I forget which this is. I was trying to click 1942. The button's a little stubborn on the start game, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. Ouch. That's not worth much. Okay. I don't have time to do a 1942 round now. This can go for 20 minutes. I get into that. That's like the heat of passion right there. Lewis, the rails help so much because when you're flying, you've got to be stomping down. Like you can't take the time to let gravity bring you back to Earth. You've got to gravitate yourself. The offer still stands. I'll be here all evening, and I will literally pay for anybody to come down here and learn how to do DDR. Like I'll throw on for 24 songs. I'm not even joking. Also, in the absence of a pencil, if you take a plastic fork and break it, you can use one of the tines to trigger a single player game, which I'm going to do now.
All right. We will now move on to new business, starting with policy 1415, revisions to the UPUA bylaws and operation code to clarify and update the operation of liaisons. Representative Lascalzo, if you'd like to introduce this.
Thank you, Ryan Lascalzo, Lion Pride representative. This policy came about due to some confusion over the appointment process that eventually led to a judicial board case between me and Zach, where essentially everyone kind of agreed after looking at the bylaws that there's a lot of contradictions and confusion in there over the process of liaisons due to the way in which liaisons were created. And essentially, this piece of legislation is meant to not only clarify the processes and get rid of the contradictions, but to improve our processes in order to make it all better. To go pretty broadly over what the changes do, some small changes to affiliates just to make sure everything makes sense in that section. There was some like minor errors. I made sure that the whole list of affiliates are in one section, made sure that it's clear who actually appoints the affiliates, so it's the organizations, not UPUA. Looked at the chat, and doesn't mean anything to me. What is it? For the bigger changes, it's the liaison stuff. So there's now a new liaison section, or section 1.2.8 in the bylaws, which essentially details liaisons and what they do and kind of their function and form. Essentially, there is now 3 methods to appoint a liaison. Those 3 methods are liaisons being internally elected, liaisons being appointed by the president with confirmation by the General Assembly, and liaisons being nominated by the president with confirmation for the steering committee. Stephen, can you like scroll down to that section? In essence, what is it? The steering committee one is meant to capture all of the liaison positions that kind of were not classified as liaisons, you know, people to like student legal services, the PRCC advisory board, hub advisory board, all those things which kind of just nebulously existed. Additionally, internally elected liaisons are mostly all the same. Liaisons that are nominated by the president with confirmation by the General Assembly are the borough liaison, and one of the people is the student fee board. Decided to do the borough liaison as a presidential appointment because we want to expand that to multiple townships in our area, and it makes more sense for it to be an appointment that way in order to make it fair. Also, the student fee board, instead of it just being an appointment by the president, which has no, what's the word? No accountability. It instead is one of the positions appointed by the president with confirmation by the assembly, and 2 are internally elected by the assembly. I went through the student fee handbook to make sure this is possible. This is possible. Additionally, the final major change is the faculty senator. The UPUA's faculty senator. In the past, it has gone to the chair of AAC. If they're already a faculty senator, it's gone to the speaker. If the speaker's already one, then the speaker appoints someone with confirmation by steering. This changes the process so that instead it goes to after the chair of AAC, it's an internal election. That way it's more fair and open, and people are more likely to understand, it's more open and a fair process essentially. And most of the other changes are just to make everything make sense within the bylaws and make sure that there aren't any numbering issues, grammatical issues, or other such issues that are created by consequence of these changes. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Representative Lascalzo? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion? I agree with Representative Reynolds. Chair Mishler?
Yeah, Adeline Mishler at large, first really appreciate all these changes and appreciate someone taking the time to go through and make these clarifications for the organization. However, I'm going to motion to, well, I guess yeah, I'm going to motion to put the State College Borough Council representative back to reverting it to how it originally is right now, to be elected by the General Assembly and not appointed by the president. So my rationale behind this is I can see the futuristic changes that might be coming that might warrant this, but I don't think right now we're there yet. So I think that having the State College Borough rep or liaison should be always a part of the General Assembly of Representatives. I think that this person needs to be really ingrained and really involved in what the UPUA is and what the UPUA is doing and actively working on what the UPUA is carrying out. And I believe that the how it is now is how we achieve that. So I think that they should be generally elected. Or they should be internally elected by the General Assembly, the Borough Council representative. That's the only thing that I think that's different from what's being brought forward. So I will officially make that motion, which essentially would remove it from the 1.2.8 under clause 3, putting it into 2.
Representative Scalzo, just to see where you are in this, and see if this deserves like discussion.
I was debating which one it should go under myself, so I'm okay with having it up to debate, because I do have some conflicts in myself over which method it would be most appropriate for.
Okay, so Chair Mishler, if you could repeat the amendment that you're making so we can just clarify it to everyone.
Yeah, and I think just if we want to do general discussion and questioning, and then we can vote. So my motion is to move the State College Borough Council student representative to the State College Borough Council out of clause 3 under Article 1.2.8 and move it under clause 2. And that makes that the Borough Council liaison will be confirmed by the General Assembly and not nominated by the president, which is how it currently functions now. I'm suggesting to keep it that way so that this person comes in front of the General Assembly, gives a speech, answers questions, and then is voted on by the General Assembly, rather than this person being appointed by the UPUA president.
Representative Scalzo?
Just like a minor thing for this, if the amendment is being made, can the amendment move it to the top of the part of the liaison shall be filled by this method by, could it instead be at the top of that instead of the bottom, just because that determines the order? And I feel like this is one of the ones that are more important. If it were to be internally elected, it should be at the top instead of the bottom. Thank you.
Chair Mishler, since that was just to see your
Yeah,
response.
that sounds great. Yeah,
okay,
that sounds great.
Chair Rodriguez, your point of privilege, and then I do want to address something.
I just wanted to confirm to whoever this can be directed to, a motion can be made to amend on this currently, correct? Is that within procedure?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh wait, Najee's right.
I just want to clarify, does it go against procedure to modify this or amend this on the floor?
I don't, so that's exactly what I was going to address. And thank you, Representative Bose, for also bringing it up to me. Historically and by precedent, we don't amend bylaws. I am just unsure if it's in our governing documents, if it also states that we can't amend bylaws. I think it's ultimately like, I wouldn't think so, just because if it's friendly and it doesn't change the nature, then it would be fine. Like I would let that go in my discretion, but yeah, that's what I was going to address in terms of, I don't know if we can amend this right now. So I think it would just be a direct vote. But Representative Scalzo?
Just kind of to give my 2 cents on this, because this is my piece of legislation and I want to allow discussion because I think that's important. This is a really important thing. I just wanted to say, like, the idea that we can't amend the bylaws came from the 14th Assembly. Before that, I believe there was a consensus that we were allowed to amend it on the floor until the previous parliamentarian kind of made a decision that it wasn't allowed anymore. So it's up to the chair to decide. Personally, I think the wording allows us to do this, but there has been disagreement over what that wording meant. So it's up to the chair.
Yeah, and I'll also, the last person just to get their input, because that's ultimately where I am with like constitutional changes. It is not allowed at all. Bylaws is kind of a whole different game, especially with voting. It doesn't require 2/3. It requires a majority. Jordan's Chief Justice Zaya, if you could also just give your input, since you do know the governing documents, just to see what you think.
Hey everyone, so I think that it, just pursuant to them, it is up to the chair, like Ryan said. However, if there was, I guess, precedent following not amending the bylaws, then that is, there's shady ground on it, so it can be done. However, it would just be not following precedent from this year and, to my knowledge, last year as well.
Seems like it is up to me. All right. I am not a creature. I would really like, I don't like when, I'm going to say yes, that we can amend this as chair, simply because I don't want to be restrained by precedent, simply because all precedent is not good precedent. So I would allow the amendment of this. So I'll continue with discussion on this amendment. I meant to say we're all like, I feel like we shouldn't be creatures of habit in terms of an assembly. That's what my train of thought is, in terms, if anyone wanted to know what I was talking about, but continue with this. Is there any discussion on this amendment specifically? And speakers on.
Yeah, Steven Zhang at large. Number one, I do kind of agree with the precedent part, because I know the reason that we set that precedent is the idea that with bylaws and constitutional changes, we don't want to be able to change the rules on the floor for what happens within that assembly. And that was kind of like the issue where, you know, if we could change the bylaws, what if we changed the, you know, let's say we change the amount that you need to get a vote for the next piece of legislation or something like that, just to block something. And that's what the precedent set. I think in this case, because this is specified on elections and the borough elections aren't in this assembly, in this meeting either, I think that it's okay to set a separate precedent as well. And I think it's always like, you don't necessarily have to follow either or both, but I think the idea is that, you know, moving forward, I think it's generally a good idea not to amend anything that you have to abide by in the current, you know, in the current meeting. But if it's not, then I don't think it's going to be a big issue. And I think that you can have future assemblies follow both precedents as just a more nuance. But yeah, in terms of this amendment, I also agree with this, just with the idea that as it currently stands, I agree with Chair Michelin in that the Borough Council representative has historically been very, very close within the UPUA and has been required to sit on governmental affairs, et cetera, and being a full working member of the UPUA. And I think that it would be, at least I think because we don't have, we haven't had this position do something like this in the past, I'd rather take this a bit slower, especially after the change adding 2 seats into the borough this past year as well. It just in terms of really wanting to solidify our seat and this like idea on the borough side too, that we do need having 2 representatives in the borough, and that both of them would be very, very closely linked to the different student governments. I think, you know, in a few years or slowly moving forward, we can do a presidential appointment. But as of right now, and especially because we haven't really had a borough representative or liaison for the past few weeks/months as we went through a lot of these changes. I think it's incredibly important that next year we have a very strong representation to the borough. So I really want to make sure that our borough liaison is going to be internally elected and held accountable to the UPUA, especially the General Assembly, as well as governmental affairs, at least for the next coming year. I think there's always discussion for future changes, but I do agree with Chair Mishler's amendment.
Chair Risser.
Yes, hello. I'll make this really quick. So just to echo everything what Speaker Zhang said, the not having a borough representative was extremely detrimental to the work that governmental affairs was able to do this assembly. And I personally believe that they should be totally elected by the assembly, because that's the borough council is important, and they make decisions that are important to us and that really directly affect students. And I think from an accountability standpoint, whoever the borough rep may be, they should be elected by the assembly as we are elected by the student body, and be that voice in the room for gov affairs and the assembly as well. So totally echo the amendment.
Call to question.
Is there a second? Okay. Give me a second, since I do have to put it in the polls of Zoom, and I do have to do that separately. And in the time that I'm making the poll, if there's any discussion on the motion to close the floor, I'm also entertaining that. Okay, let me just make sure that it's there. Okay, to clarify this vote, actually, wait. Yeah. Cool. We'll get into friendly amendments after this one. So what we're voting on right now is to move the non-voting student rep of Borough Council to under Clause 2, Part A. So essentially this would be voted on by the Assembly instead of where it was before, which I believe it was under Part A of Clause 3. Yeah, sorry, my screen's small. So basically what we're debating is that the vote right now, if you vote yes, it means that you want this non-voting student borough rep to be selected by the Assembly. By voting no, you want it to stay where it is and you want it to be a presidential appointee. And by abstaining, you weren't present for the vote, or you weren't present for the vote. But Representative Robertson, if you have a question.
Yeah, it's a question. So in the chat,
yeah.
like a while back, I saw the Chief Justice said that, like, as of the previous, like, pursuant to the judicial board decision, it's an appointment by the speaker. Is that different than like appointment by the president? I'm just confused with like the current system.
Representative Liscalzo.
I could answer. So originally it was by internal election, but the judicial board decided that because of the contradictions, they were going to go with a speaker appointment instead. My amendment would have this policy would have changed it to a presidential appointment. Or this particular amendment proposed by Representative Mishler or Chair Mishler would make it to be an internal election again. That's kind of what's going on right now.
All right, sweet. With that, again, Representative Lascaux also put in the chat if it makes it easier by saying, yes, you want the non-voting student borough rep to be selected by an internal election in the assembly. By saying no, you want it to be a presidential appointee, and by abstaining, you weren't present for the discussion, and I really hope that you were, since this is policy. I'm going to launch the poll. Please vote. I'm not going to give it too much time. And here we go. Representative Lara, do you have a question or do you
Wait,
want
me?
clarification? Yeah, your hand's up.
Oh, that's my bad. Let
I was
me
like,
put it down.
okay. I'm gonna give it like another 20 seconds and then I'll be closing the poll. We're missing a couple of votes, I will say. All right, I will now end the poll. And including some of the votes that I got through private message for technical difficulties or not being able to vote, it is a vote of yes, which means it will be under internal elections. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'll also announce the vote for sake of announcing it, but the vote is 31-1 to 2. Okay. Representative Lascaux.
Friendly amendment time to kind of fix all the things. Remove the comma and from clause 3 part A because there's no reason to have it there now. And then after you do that, scroll down to 4.3.3 and just delete that entirely, because the reason that was a thing was because it was that whole section there. Yep. Because it was supposed to change it because it'll be a presidential appointment instead of a member or an assembly member. So just delete all of that as just, yeah, like that. Good. And I believe that is it.
All right, and I'll take a second for any of the friendly amendments, just encompassing since they are friendly. I just need a second. Cool. All right, now that the last amendment went through and some friendly amendments have gone through, we are still in discussion on the entire policy itself. So is there any other discussion?
Call to question.
Do I see a second? Okay. All right, since this is policy, it does require a roll call vote. So Speaker Zong, when you're ready, if you could do roll call.
Yep. Arthur Kolar,
Yes.
Adeline Mishler,
Yes. Yes.
Alexander Wu, Amy Gary,
Yes.
Anna Taylor,
Yes.
Anne-Marie Round Sorensen, Blake Tolliver,
Yes.
Brian Schultz, Cameron McColgan,
Yes.
Kathy Minetti Zhao, Kara Fleegle,
Yes.
Carter Gangle,
Yes.
Dan Risser,
Yes.
Emmanuel Amonte,
Yes.
Aaron Bowes,
Yes.
John Mark Miller,
Yes.
Joshua Reynolds,
Yes.
Haley Quinnen, Cara DeLucio,
Yes.
Kelly Snyder,
Yes.
Kyle Quinn,
I'm looking at a zero.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
Lincoln Meter,
Yes.
Louis Richardson,
Yes.
Marie Meisner,
Yes.
Maddie McIntyre,
Yes.
Megan Dalo,
Yes.
Najee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Noah Robertson,
Yes.
Patricia Brunji, Rainier Foley Di Fiore,
Yes. Sorry, couldn't unmute.
you're good. Raina Alexander,
Yes.
Refuser Laura,
Yes.
Ryan Lascalzo,
Yes.
Samantha Brown,
Yes.
Sarah Jordan,
Yes.
Sidi Deshpande,
Yes.
Sophia Polillo. I vote yes. Sydney Gibbard
Yes.
and Xiao Shu.
Yes.
Brian Schultz also votes yes. And with that, was anyone's name not called?
All right, policy 1415, revisions to the UPUA bylaws and operation code to clarify and update the operation of liaison, passes with a vote of 35-0. All right, and thank you, Representative Lascalzo. We will move on to line item B, which is Bill 2215, funding graduation stoles for Black Caucus. Chair Rodriguez, if you'd like to introduce this.
I think I'll just speak and then I'll defer the rest of my time to Najee. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Black students are undeniably disproportionately affected by the education system, which makes acts such as graduating from college a great accomplishment. Black graduation aims to celebrate these accomplishments of graduating undergraduate and graduate students who identify with being part of the African diaspora. This ceremony is held to honor the accomplishments and preserve the legacies of Black students at the Pennsylvania State University. This annual celebration started in 2019 by a Black Caucus member, and therefore Black Caucus wants to continue this tradition again with the help of the UPUA. Given the circumstances of the pandemic, the ceremony will be held virtually this year. However, stoles are needed to be purchased to continue this tradition. Therefore, this bill calls for the purchasing of 150 traditional Black Kente stoles to celebrate this great accomplishment amongst Black students at Penn State. These stoles will be shipped to students and a form will be created in which will allow the stoles to be shipped to their residents. Again, being a Penn State student is an accomplishment to be proud of. Continuing this tradition for our Black graduates of 2021 and beyond will further promote what it means to be a graduate of Penn State and recognize that Black students deserve recognition for their hard work and perseverance throughout their collegiate career. I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Chair Rodriguez.
Najee Rodriguez, College of the Liberal Arts. I just want to state that I commend Blake and Nyla for their work in collaborating and bringing this to our attention to bring to the floor today. It's an excellent piece of legislation and it's exactly what the direction UPUA should be going in. We should be working with these communities and not on behalf of these communities. So that's really exciting to be able to reintroduce this for, I believe, the second year in a row. I can't wait for this to take precedent in justice and equity. And I really just want to thank Blake and Nyla for their collaboration in making this a reality and possibility. I hope in the future we continue to collaborate and help uplift these communities with our funding that can really go a long way in terms of showing our support and continued appreciation for every student, especially the Black community. Thank you.
All right, and with that, are there any questions for Representative Tolliver or Chair Rodriguez? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion? I do see a motion to add the type 40, Speaker Zong.
Yeah, let me just pull out my trusty calculator here. Uh, 2727. Type 40 is $79,570.33.
I do see a second. All right. And Chair Mishler?
Adeline Mishler at large. I have an amendment that I think that the co-sponsors are going to accept as friendly. I don't know the specific language I put on the note. If we have that, we could use that. If not, I can try to reiterate it to the assembly here. So motioning in line 19, hereby support the Black Caucus financially. Just changing that language to something along the lines of collaborating with the Black Caucus for specific needs. Yeah, that's my motion. Yeah, a little bit of justification there is just we have to be particularly cautious with our wording, as UPUA is not an allocating body. We just want to make sure that we are not conveying ourselves as such. We are really collaborating with Black Caucus here, and again, as Najee put, collaborating with communities to like bring the projects that they want to fruition. So I think this is completely within our like purview, and this is something we should definitely continue to keep doing in the future. I know we did it last year, but language is just important there. So yeah.
Since it doesn't really change the nature, do you, Representative Tolliver and Chair Rodriguez, do you accept this as friendly?
Yes.
Okay. Moving down, Representative Tolliver, you're on the queue.
I just had a motion to change the Black Caucus will continue the tradition of celebrating their 13 students of different academic degrees to the Black Caucus wants to continue to celebrate this new tradition to honor their 2021 graduates. I can type it in the chat.
Do I see a second? All right. And again, since that doesn't change the nature, and Representative Oliver, you are one of the sponsors that is taken as friendly. Chair Rodriguez?
Motion to add comma president of Black Caucus after Nyla Holland in line wherever that may be, Stephen. Perfect, 28.
And do I see a second for that? Okay. All right. I'm going to give it about a second so Speaker Zong can take Representative Tolliver's amendment and add it. And while I do that, is there any other discussion? All right, seeing no other discussion, Speaker Zong, are you good to go or do you need a bit of time?
Good.
All right, sweet. I will now close the floor for discussion. And again, since this is a bill, it does require a roll call vote. So as always, Speaker Zong, only when you're ready, start the roll call.
Okay. Arthi Kalar,
Yes.
Adeline Mishler,
Yes.
Alexander Wu, Amy Gary,
Yes.
Anna Taylor,
Yes.
Anne Marie Round Sorensen, Blake Tolliver,
Yes.
Brian Schultz, Cameron McColgan,
Yes.
Kathy Minetti Zhao, Kara Fleegle,
Yes.
Carter Gangle,
Yes.
Dan Risser,
Yes.
Emmanuel Amante,
Yes.
Aaron Bose,
Yes.
Jean-Marc Miller,
Yes.
Joshua Reynolds,
Yes.
Kaylee Quinnen, Cara DeLucio,
Yes.
Kelly Snyder,
Yes.
Kyle Quinn,
Yes.
Lakin Meter,
Yes.
Lewis Richardson,
Yes.
Marie Meisner,
Yes.
Maddie McIntyre,
Yes.
Megan Dalo,
Yes.
Najee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Noah Robertson,
Yes.
Patricia Baranji,
Yes.
Rainier Foley Di Fiore, Rainier, Reina Alexander,
Yes.
Refugio Lara,
Yes.
Ryan Lascalzo, Samantha Brown,
Yes.
Sarah Jordan,
Yes.
Seti Deshpande,
Yes.
Sophia Palio. I vote yes. Sydney Gibbard
Yes.
and Sharu Shi.
Yes.
Was anyone's name not called?
Representative Foley Di Fiore votes yes.
Okay. Brian, I'm not sure I got your vote. Could you repeat that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, hey. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Bill 2215, funding graduation souls for Black Caucus, passes unanimously and specifically with a vote of 35-0. All right, moving down the agenda, we have line item C, which is resolution 5515 in support of zero waste commitment from University Park student organizations. Chair Jordan, if you'd like to introduce this.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Jordan at large. I'm going to do a little overview and then I'm going to pass off the rest of my time to Anne and Faith to just kind of wrap it up. So this resolution, basically earlier this assembly, UPUA passed a bill supporting the plan membership, as you guys remember, which highlighted the importance of the zero waste movement and promoting a circular economy. So Penn State, as stated in here, is very behind implementing and adhering to this waste reduction. So the SSAC has been working with the plan membership to develop campus-wide zero waste goals. So basically this resolution, if Stephen, you want to scroll down a little bit, just calls on student orgs to kind of commit in the next decade to zero waste. So implementing like events such as, helping like the Department of Sustainability, SSAC, and Plan working with other orgs around campus. We had a great discussion in facilities about how that can be implemented in. Really big shout out to the Department of Sustainability and the SSAC for coming to facilities, talking to us, and bringing this resolution forward. It was really, really well thought out and thorough. I want to yield the rest of my time to Anne and Faith to kind of just talk anything else out that they want to add. But yeah, I'll stand for any questions and then just passing it off to them.
Give me a second. Sorry, my Wi-Fi.
Faith, I think you should try raising your hand, right, Lexi? Is that what happens?
Yeah, sorry, my headphones and my Wi-Fi just like freaked out at me at the same time. So let me get them both on, and they should be able to good to go. Faith or Anne, you should be able to.
And oh yeah, go ahead, Anna. Sorry. Sorry.
I mean, my intro was going to be similar to Sarah's, so thank you, Sarah, for the great introduction. I would also just add that zero waste is kind of a big step in terms of waste reduction and sustainable waste management for Penn State. So we think that targeting student orgs would be the best next step forward, and collaboration with SSAC and UPUA's Department of Sustainability. And I'll pass it off to Emily.
So I think Emily is not on as a webinar person yet. But so I'll start off and then Emily can come on after. But yeah, hi everybody. Very happy, excited to be here. Sarah did a really great job of kind of doing a little bit of an overview, but just to go a little bit deeper into what she was talking about. So in the beginning of this resolution, the nature of the situation, I think we just kind of talk a little bit about, we all are kind of aware of the waste problem that the world is facing right now, or at least, I mean, I'm kind of assuming we are. This is definitely something that we are realizing, that the world does not have the capacity to be taking on as much waste as humankind is generating. And this is something that more and more individuals, as well as companies and governments and just society as a whole, is struggling with. Specifically, with that, then that also goes further into issues of environmental justice and environmental racism that really need to be taken into account whenever we are considering how to combat this waste issue. When looking at our role as a university and Penn State University's role as a whole, a lot of other Big Ten universities have already implemented steps and goals to be reducing their waste. So this is definitely something that we, as Sarah pointed out, we are already falling behind on a little bit. And so that's really kind of our goal, is to get us up to speed here. Specifically, as I'm sure you all are aware already, we have such a large pool as students here at the university. And not only do we want to just be advocating for it, and we really hope for this to be a way of representing student support for these goals, but we also have a lot of pull just from the organizations that exist on campus and the events that we are holding. And we think that this is really somewhere that we could have a big impact in reducing our footprint on campus. So with that, going into the action steps of it, I'll let Emily talk about some of that.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us, first of all. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. So basically our resolution, this resolution that we've worked on with Sarah and Aaron and also Kelly and a multitude of great people, essentially what our vision is to ask certain organizations and clubs to kind of dedicate themselves to zero waste and really solidify their dedication to that by developing zero waste goals for themselves, that within the first 5 years or so, or a certain plan like that would look like diverting about 80 to 90% of their waste, whether that be from food or from certain events, clothing and stuff like that. So with that in mind, we'd be working more toward a goal of zero waste within a decade. And we know this is possible. We've worked with Plan. We know UPUA is dedicated to this. And so, yeah, there's a lot of good resources out there from Plan and from the Sustainability Institute that are really interested in helping and dedicated to this goal as well, because it is very important. As Faith alluded to earlier, the university just has a ton of waste and creates a ton of waste, and we feel that if there's student support for waste reduction goals in their own organizations and clubs and stuff like that, then the university will begin to look at waste as a problem and start to divert more of their 20,000 tons each year. I'm not sure what else to. Thank you for your time. All good. All right. If the introductions are over for this resolution, I can now open it up for questions for any of the co-sponsors or special acknowledgements. Are there any questions? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Representative Bose?
Aaron Bose at large. I really just want to thank Emily, Faith, Anne, and their entire team for putting together such a great resolution, and also so much of the behind the scenes work as well that they've been doing for so long, and I'm sure will continue to be doing. And I'm really looking forward to see how we can push this into the future, and also make sure that the organizations are really getting that type of support and getting those types of goals within each organization to really push towards zero waste. So thank you guys, and I'm excited to see what this ends up being.
Chair Jordan?
Yeah, not to echo off of all that, but thank you again for coming in. We really do appreciate it. With that being said, I do motion to pass this by unanimous consent.
Is there a second? I do see seconds. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing no discussion on that motion, Resolution 5515 in support of zero waste commitment from University Park student organizations passes unanimously. All right, thank you. We will now move on to line item D, which is Resolution 5615, calling on the Pennsylvania State University to completely divest from fossil fuel holdings. Chair Rodriguez, if you'd like to introduce this.
Noja Rodriguez, College of the Liberal Arts. Representative Desponde and Robertson will be introducing this piece of legislation.
Yes. Hi. Hi, everyone. Representative Deshpande at large. Happy Wednesday. And thank you to the students that spoke at Open Student Forum and also voiced their concerns. So along with Representative Robertson, I'll be sharing my time with him. I'm introducing Resolution 5615, calling on the Pennsylvania State University to completely divest from fossil fuel holdings. In the last 50 years, climate change has become widely understood as one of the greatest threats of our lifetime. Rising temperatures, worsening air quality, and more frequent natural disasters are already affecting the health, housing security, food and water security, and financial status of the student population. We're seeing that marginalized populations of Pennsylvania being especially affected. For example, 85% of power plants are located in Black and brown neighborhoods. Additionally, climate change will heavily affect rural Pennsylvanians due to agricultural losses, flooding, and unprecedented damage to infrastructure. The burning of fossil fuels is a process known to contribute to climate change, and Pennsylvania is one of the biggest users of fossil fuels, such as coal, natural gas, and oil. The use of fossil fuels has a very real environmental cost: polluted air and water, destroyed ecosystems, and not to mention the human and financial cost for the communities exploited in the process. To quote the Secretary General of the United Nations, we need an urgent transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Now, I will allow Representative Robertson to discuss the financial aspects of fossil fuel divestment.
Hi, everyone. Just a disclaimer, I do not mean to come off as any sort of financial expert, and huge thank you to my finance major roommate for helping me understand some of the more technical terms here. But essentially, in Penn State's strategic plan from 2016 to 2025, the university commits itself on a foundational level to ensuring a sustainable future. And one of the university's thematic priorities in that same plan is to steward our planet's resources by forging broad and relevant partnerships between Penn State and industry stakeholders. And despite these commitments, it's been so incredibly difficult to find information about Penn State's long-term investments germane to sustainability. In Penn State's long-term investments pool, or LTIP, which reviewed long-term investments as of last summer, one meaningful conclusion is that only fixed income investments, or roughly 12% of the LTIP's $4.63 billion, cannot certainly be used in fossil fuels. The document does not provide enough information to make any meaningful conclusions really about how much of that remaining 88% of the LTIP is in energy investments, but we can reasonably assume a portion of this money is in fossil fuels. Continued investments of the university's endowment and non-endowment funds, which contribute to the LTIP, into fossil fuels is not just environmentally unsustainable, but is also contrary to the central ethical tenets and commitments prescribed by the strategic plan created by Penn State. Sustainable investments in renewables have been financially soaring compared to the $400 billion decline in market value of oil and gas producers over the past 5 years. And this also just represents the investments of the future. If you want to learn more about fossil fuel divestment, I really urge you to read more on the Penn State Climate Action Petition website. And now I'll yield the remaining of the time back to Representative Deshpande.
Thank you. Within the last decade, we've seen a growing movement for universities to divest from fossil fuels. In 2016, UMass Amherst became the first public university to divest from direct fossil fuel holdings, and it cited its guiding principles and commitment to addressing climate change. In 2020, the entire University of California system divested over $1 billion of fossil fuel assets, and it invested those funds in clean energy projects instead. Most recently, in March 2021, so a couple weeks ago, the Big Ten University Rutgers committed to divest the 5% of its $1.6 billion endowment committed to fossil fuels. Penn State has also been experiencing increasing pressure to do the same. In January of 2020, the Association of Big Ten Students, or ABTS, unanimously voted to pass a resolution calling for all 14 Big Ten schools to freeze all future investments in fossil fuels and develop a plan to divest from current holdings as soon as possible. As recently as November 4th, 2020, the UPUA passed Resolution 3815, support of the demands made by the PSU Climate Action Petition, which also called for the diversion of fossil fuel investments into green energy. So what can Penn State do about this? Stephen, you can scroll down. We are calling on Penn State to 1, freeze all future investments in fossil fuels, 2, immediately construct constitutional targets to sell all holdings in firms that extract, produce, refine, sell, store, or transport oil, gas, and coal by December 31st, 2026. This timeline is similar to the Rutgers deadline, which gives them 5 years. And 3, redirect these investments to wind, solar, and other forms of renewable energy, with an emphasis on a just energy transition for frontline communities and displaced workers. We urge the university at all levels of governance, and especially the Board of Trustees and the University Investment Council, who approved the long-term investment plan, to consider this resolution and its consequences seriously. Thank you all for your time, and thank you to Kelly, Juhi, and Brian in the Sustainability Department for contributing to this resolution as well. We now stand for questions.
All right, are there any questions for Representative Robertson or Deshpande? Seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Representative Lascalzo?
Ryan Lascalzo, Lion Pride Representative. I just wanted to speak on how important this is. I think everyone will really benefit this, all students, not even just them, all the people in the world, really, in the sense that climate change is a very serious issue that our generation has to face. And by encouraging the university to divest from fossil fuels, it will help us have a better future for ourselves. Additionally, I'd also like to say, originally this resolution had a thing about having a referendum in it, but upon reviewing the bylaws, we figured out that wasn't allowed. So there will be a complementary policy coming up next week that will essentially have a very similar theme to it, but will allow us to have a referendum for the upcoming election in order to essentially poll the student population on the importance of this issue and to further strengthen our cause and our resolve to getting this done.
All right, is there any other discussion? Speakers on.
Yeah, Stephen Zing at large. A couple of things. First, I fully support this resolution. However, I will have to abstain, not because of any sinister reasons, but there's something in this resolution that I right now I have a conflict of interest with, so I cannot vote in favor of it. So I'd encourage us not to motion by unanimous consent, because then I'd have to object against it, even though that's not a thing. Another thing I also want to say is I really appreciate the putting in of the just energy transition frontline communities and displaced workers. Because number one, I am so in favor of divestment and moving towards a sustainable but greener future. But one of the things that really struck me by surprise in one of my classes the other day was someone said like, oh, only an X couple hundred million people are in the coal industry and that it's a worthwhile sacrifice for divestment or moving forward from fossil fuels. And it's really important to also keep in mind that, for example, Pennsylvania is a huge coal community, and a lot of these families have just only known coal for so long that they really need the support when we are divesting, moving away from it, to say, hey, like, here's some ways that we can assist your families with moving forward with whether it's clean energy or retraining, and moving towards a really progressive future that really assists in equity, not only for the people who are currently affected, but the future impacts of all these actions. So I really appreciate that being put in there as well, and just keeping in mind that yes, in the long term, in the greater scheme of things, 100% for divestment, 100% for a sustainable future, but also thinking in the short term and saying, okay, what are the most impacted communities from this, and where can we move forward from it? And I think that's something that often gets lost in the conversations about climate change and all the negative consequences that are happening right now, but just making sure that a lot of these other communities that are affected are also being considered. So I really appreciate that as well. And as much as I can't 100% support this and have to abstain, I really do support it.
Representative Robertson.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so just two brief things. One, I just wanted to say follow up, and I just completely agree with what Stephen said as well. That phrase, like talking about the frontline workers and a just energy transition, really resonates with me as well. I think it's something that's sometimes left out of conversation, but it's such an inclusive phrase, and it can get everyone on board with these type of policies. And that's coming from someone, I grew up in the anthracite coal region of Pennsylvania, like Northeast PA, where a lot of people don't support like climate action policies or the Green New Deal or anything like that, because it's the conversation is just kind of lost on them. So that I also, that really resonates with me. And then a second thing is, I just wanted to say this resolution specifically calls for financial divestment. So making sure that the university's financial holdings are not in unsustainable sectors. But that's just one part of everything that the climate action petition has called for in the past. And we as UPUA have also supported that climate action petition, like we included in here. So there's such a capacity to talk about resolutions that call for carbon neutrality through like carbon sequestration, carbon neutral fuels, research into those carbon capture technology, all of that stuff. There's also the climate action petition supported things like sustainability education, incorporating more of that into existing curriculum. And one other thing that happened this year that I think is awesome is FEBORD is considering the sustainability fund, which is also kind of part of the climate action petition's demands to reallocate a portion of the student fee towards sustainability initiatives. So while divestment is incredibly important, I just wanted to highlight the kind of scope of what the climate action petition is doing again. And if anyone's interested in that, I'm not personally involved. I'm looking to get more involved in sustainability stuff, but Divya was here earlier, and I know she's integral in kind of coordinating all of those efforts. So I would really encourage everyone to reach out to them, see other ways, consider resolutions that we can help promote the mission of the climate action petition and help transition Penn State to a more sustainable future.
Representative Bose.
Aaron Bose at large. I want to thank the representatives and all the directors that put this very important piece of legislation together. I'm extremely in favor of this. And I, similarly to Stephen, will also have to abstain for non-sinister reasons, as he put it. But I completely think that especially the stances that this assembly has taken on sustainability, I think are extremely important. And especially divestment, which is an utmost importance that the university takes a stance on. So thank you for putting this together. Sadly, I do have to abstain, but I am in favor of the spirit of legislation.
All right, is there any other discussion? Chair Mishler?
Yeah, I actually have a question for other representatives. So maybe actually I won't like specifically name anyone, but like if maybe we can have more of a general, broader conversation around the abstentions. And yeah, so I guess I'm just looking for some discussion. UPUA used to be like this too. So it would be like, what are we all thinking? You know, some people are abstaining for, yeah, I mean, I think, I'm sorry I'm rambling here, but just more of that. What's going through people's heads with the abstention? Do we have a lot of people abstaining, and more of the grounds for those abstentions? I'm just trying to be a conversation starter.
Representative Robertson.
I want to expand on a detail that's in the RCA that I felt was just appropriate to include in a resolution like this. In considering what type of actionable steps can come out of a resolution like this, and also considering that entities like the Board of Trustees govern the university at the highest level and make decisions germane to sustainability, we wanted to really emphasize the importance of a student's understanding of fossil fuel divestment and other sustainability domains in that selection process, so that if a student is found and has to vote on a candidate for the University Investment Council, for example, how do we know that that student has a strong understanding of sustainability? And we want to advocate for a student on a board like that to choose to really emphasize the value of sustainability in any candidate, and that might help push arguments inside of boards like that. I'm not sure if that's related to the abstentions, but I just wanted to take a second and clarify on that specific paragraph, and also just explain that the nature of this resolution is to also help promote sustainability and sustainability minded students in positions like that.
Is there any discussion, and also circling back on Chair Mischler's question, proposal, if there's any other input? Can someone yield time to President McKay? Can you say in the chat? All right, President McKay.
Hi, was it? Yeah, thank you, Representative Gibbard. Just a brief comment from looking, I guess, from a bird's eye view. This, like all resolutions, we will ultimately pass these along to administrators. This one specifically to the Board of Trustees and their chair and vice chair. And I'm wondering if anyone thinks similar to a feeling that line 71 and 72 might not be necessary, because it almost implies that other resolutions aren't to be taken seriously. I think that and this might sound awful, but I think that they did take our climate petition resolution seriously and then still didn't really do anything about it. And I'm wondering if maybe something along the lines of, we urge that the administration provide a public response to this resolution, considering its seriousness, would be more appropriate, because they never responded publicly to the climate action petition one. They've only talked to us about it in private conversation. Food for thought, but I figured I might lend that perspective. Thank you again.
Chair Mischler.
Motion to strike lines 71 and 72.
Do I see a second? And also I'll ask the co-sponsors, do you take this as friendly, or is this something that you'd like to be debated?
Okay.
Do you want to go?
Yeah. So the
Okay.
intention, just to explain the intention of this line, we weren't saying that other resolutions aren't taken seriously. That wasn't the point. I think we really just put in that line, especially in bold, to really emphasize the importance of this and make it clear that we just want this to be seen and really considered. Zach, I do like the suggestion to maybe ask for a public response instead. So I would consider changing it to that.
I'm gonna ask Chair Mischler, do you want to rescind, or do you want to keep that motion, since I do hear talks of possibly just changing that line to something else?
Oh, To clarify, I think Stephen said something was omitted, or someone said something that was omitted before that wasn't allowed. Does Stephen know what I'm talking about? Like we weren't allowed because of our governing docs. Am I making this up?
No, that was bylaws. That was bylaw changes. This is a resolution.
Wait.
Was it?
I think what she's talking about is we included a line proposing a referendum, but because this is a resolution, like we could not propose that in a resolution, so we're going to introduce it in a future policy for next week.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I will like temporarily rescind if we'd like, or I think we would like to have discussion. I can temporarily rescind, but my general thoughts are that this considering the arguments, I just think that it's not something that's like appropriate in our resolutions and bills. They all would need to say this, and I can speak later too, but I think that the assembly should I can rescind if someone wants to do like a proposal of a different thing. But
We got it in the chat.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
all right.
guys.
No, thank you, Chair Mishler. So I do hear temporary rescind, and then Chair Mishler, feel free to also chime in. Representative Robertson said in the chat, the UPUA urges the university at all levels of governance, including the Board of Trustees and the University Investment Council, to respond with public comment on the state of Penn State's fossil fuel divestment. And that was a motion to amend it. I do see a second. Chair Mishler, is this something that you were willing to fully rescind to consider that as an amendment?
Yeah, I'll rescind my motion and we can put this up if this is more popular. I don't support this, but I'll formally rescind.
Okay. All right, so we are in discussion on this amendment specifically. So Representative Richardson.
I just wanted to echo I guess I'm a little bit late. Representative Lascauzo, I think, also raised another point. I'm not sure if we can talk about that now, but just that we modify at all levels to all relevant levels of governance. But yeah.
And I see that as friendly. So all relevant will be included in the amendment.
Awesome.
Cool. With that, is there any discussion on this amendment? Chair Mishler?
Just a question.
Go ahead. We'll get to your question. Okay. Representative Richardson, you're good.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Will this be in bold? Does it protect? I don't know if it particularly matters, but I know that line 71, 72 were, and I think that does make a statement. So
I do see, sure, let's keep it bold. So I feel like, yes, it will be in bold. All right, Chair Mishler.
I love Mishler at large. I'm not highly alarmed by this. I hope that they're regularly speaking about this topic, and don't just talk about this topic when they need to respond to us. I'm also just more of an advocate for actively resolving the issue. So I think I'm generally not in support of something like this. I'm taking more of a proactive and getting hearing us. I think I'm generally against this.
All right, is it Representative Richardson?
just to sort of, I guess, counter the point that was previously made, I'm super in support of this because I think that it actually puts the ball in administrators' court, which is something that we struggle to do pretty constantly, I think, as a, adverse, I guess we're like sort of an advocacy body, and we don't have policy making clout. So I think that this is definitely something that we should pursue, especially given how, I know President McKay mentioned that, they did give some credence to the climate action petition, though not to the extent that, the 4 student governments definitely had hoped. So I'm definitely in support of including this sort of language, not only on this, but on future legislation as well.
Representative Liscalzo.
Ryan Liscalzo, Lion Pride representative. I am in favor of this amendment as well, because if we remember back to the nature of the situation, it was kind of hard to actually get the information on like how much of Penn State's investments are in actually fossil fuels and things like that. And I think it is important for us to essentially, we're going through this resolution saying that we should de-invest or whatever, that we should be calling on the university to respond in some way, because it allows us to be not only advocates, but better give the tools to other students to advocate. Because if the information isn't out there and we're telling the university, hey, tell us what your plan is for this, it gives the students more information to make actions on their own and do things independently.
All right, Chair Mishler.
Sorry, I'm almost done talking here, promise. I really like what was just stated a lot. But just to kind of touch back on some of the other things. So my thing is like, I don't really want to hear some empty kind of words and have the admin kind of devote their time to giving us some empty set of words. I want the ball to be in their court, but I also want to be in their court, right? I want students to be in the room making the decisions and giving the reports on what the state of affairs are at the university, because I want students to be actively shaping the stance of where we're at with things. So this is just a matter of principle for me. I'm advocating for us to be in the room making the decisions. I'm not receiving the updates. I don't think that we need to hear back an update. I ask that we get more so involved in the room. This is just a matter of principle. That's all. Thank you.
If someone could yield Representative Robertson time, simply there is like a 2-time limit. Thank you, Representative Robertson.
Hi, I actually just wanted to make a quick amendment to the nature of the situation. When we were first writing this, or I guess when the nature of the situation was first being written.
I'm gonna stop you for a second, since we are still on the discussion of the amendment in red right now. So once we vote on that, yeah, we can get back to your amendment.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Richardson.
I again, I'm not sure what the procedure is for amending an amendment that we're currently talking about, but I think it might be wise for us to, rather than urge them to respond with public comment on the state of Penn State's fossil fuel investment, to have them respond with public comment on not only the current state, but their future plans. Because I think that they can, again, trying to put pressure on administrators, I think is tough. We only have so much political capital. And I think it's wise for us to sort of cover all the bases on our own end, make it so that they can't skirt around this issue if they feel so inclined to do so. And basically just hey, this is exactly what we want. We want to know not only what's going on today, but what you plan to do 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, et cetera. So I think that maybe adding to this a bit might be advantageous as well.
Representative Deshpande, and then while she is speaking, just if there is someone who wants to make an amendment to an amendment, I will allow that. I just won't do an amendment to an amendment to an amendment. So if that's something that you guys want to do, feel free to.
Yeah. This is in response to Chair Mishler's comment. I wanted to say I definitely understand your sentiment, and I understand that we don't want empty words. We want students to be in the room. I think it is a little bit of a separate issue from what we are calling for. I think we can have both. I don't think it has to be one or the other. So for that reason, I support the current amendment, and I would not want to change it.
I do see the chat and include students in future discussions on Penn State's fossil fuel divestment. I see. Okay, I see. This is where I don't want to turn it into an amendment to an amendment to an amendment. So, and I did hear from one of the co-sponsors that the current one is something that should be included. To give my slight insight just as a chair, I feel like the statement of with public comment on the state of Penn State's fossil fuel divestments, if we want to clarify that anymore, you could say now and in the future instead of getting down a circle of amendments. That's something. There's a second to Lewis's. Wait a minute. Okay. I'm gonna go back. All right, so I do see Representative Robertson's second to Lewis's, and that was to include a summary of future plans for divestment. Do I see any discussion on this amendment to be included? We are now in the territory of an amendment to an amendment, and I'm not going further than that. So is there any discussion on this? I'm going to take general consensus with this. If I don't see any discussion, that means everyone's on the board and saying yes to at least this, not the entire amendment itself. We can vote on that as a whole, but at least the inclusion of this. Is there any disagreement with this being added to the full amendment? Seeing none, what's in yellow will be a part of the full amendment based on general consensus. We are now in discussion on the entire amendment as a whole. Is there any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will now, we'll be voting on this amendment itself. Just as a clarification, I do have a poll ready. And since I have to do the polls right on the spot, mine says add the amendment that is in red into the resolution. But to specify to everyone before we are voting in this poll, what is in red, if you say yes, you want that included in the resolution. By saying no, you do not want it included in the resolution. And by abstaining, you simply don't have enough information or you were not present for discussion. And again, I'd really hope it's more that you weren't present or couldn't be, but. All right, I'm gonna release the poll. I'm not gonna give it a long time, so please vote as soon as you can. And as a reminder, only representatives should be voting. I know there's non-representatives in this room, but we're kind of going by the honor code right now since it is a privilege to be in this room right now. So I will be launching the poll. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds and we do have a couple votes missing. So please vote ASAP. Closing it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The amendment passes and including some private messages. The vote is 27-5-2. That amendment is included in the entirety, and we are now back in discussion on the entire resolution as a whole. Representative Robertson.
Okay, hi everyone. So when we were first kind of writing it, there was an uncertainty about what the long-term investment pool really looked like and what some of the terminology meant within it. So upon better preparation for presentation, we were able to dig a little bit more into a deeper understanding of what the LTIP was. So this motion is in line 26. If we can scroll to that. I just wanted to change some of what the language was. And this is almost exactly what I said during presentation as well. So yeah, my motion is to like change according to the Penn State long-term investment pool, that sentence to what I put in the chat, because this provides a little bit more clarification as to what the LTIP currently has and what type of information we were privy to when writing this.
Do I see a second? Representative Gibbard, I'm lowering your hand for this, like for a second. I will get back to you. I do see a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? As chair, with my discretion, I think this is just factual information, so I don't think it's changing the nature of it at all. So if I don't see any discussion, I'm going to take general consensus that this will be added. All right. Cool, that will be added. Representative Gibbard, you can go next, and then Representative Lascalzo. If Speaker Zong and Representative Bose want to speak to that after Representative Gibbard, they are welcome, but they also they shouldn't feel forced to either.
Yeah, Sydney Gibbard, College of Engineering. So I guess I kind of had a little bit of a question about as far as like advocacy to the student trustee like application process and what that would look like. I know that like people on the student trustee committee are not like supposed to talk about it, but I know like the student body presidents are automatically on the committee, and I don't know if Zach could potentially answer like what I guess advocacy to the committee would look like as far as like in AAC related things, when someone puts in a resolution, like we encourage you to advocate to faculty senate, like that's a very broad and general kind of like line of advocacy, and it can be more specific and more direct. And I guess I was just wondering if maybe Zach could elaborate, or maybe like either of the co-sponsors on like what your plan is for that. And also if outside groups are actually allowed to influence any aspect of the student trustee application process. Yeah.
Representative Robertson.
I can touch on that a little bit, and then if Zach wants to answer, I'll yield time to him as well. But the reasoning for including that I thought was important to note was, we're calling for Penn State to be very public about its long-term investment pool and exactly what holdings it has in fossil fuel industry. And those recommendations and that information is given to people on things like the University Investment Council and to presumably Board of Trustees members, but the Board of Trustees at the highest level of governance of the university has like the final say essentially, and like what's going on in this. And so we wanted to support in this resolution the idea of whoever the next student trustee is, we want them to have an understanding of what sustainability is, what divestment means, and just be aware of the different domains of sustainability. And so as this advocacy organization, we want, and as like the undergraduate student body, we wanted to say, whoever the next student trustee is, and that's up to the student trustee selection committee, we just want to urge them to heavily emphasize the value of sustainability in that process. And I believe Zach mentioned it earlier that the process is kind of happening out. I tried to search for some updates online. I'm not sure if that's public information as to like what the timeline looks like, but regardless of that timeline, regardless of our capacity here, like this is ultimately something to be considered by them in that space. We just wanted to express that as UPUA, we really support the next student trustee having an awareness and understanding of sustainability. But if Zach wants to answer as well, I'll yield time to him.
Could I just like add one more thing before Zach speaks too? Like I definitely understand the reasoning behind it, and like I definitely get it for sure. I was just maybe also Zach, if you could elaborate on what the board's response was when you initially advocated for the climate action petition, and like what kind of like how did they react, and how could they did they say that, this is something that the Board of Trustees actually has a say in, or is this something that goes through a different avenue at Penn State? Like, I don't know what their hand is in as far as like Penn State's like investments and stuff like that. And then, yeah, and then also with the student trustee selection, like what that looks like as well.
President McKay, if you want to You've been yielded time by Representative Robertson.
Thank you. I can only really speak on the selection process by saying that I would be able to pass this along to those on the council, but I don't, or on the committee, but I don't think we'd yeah, I'm trying my best to navigate legal waters here. So I'm just going to say that I would make sure everybody sees this, and that's all I can really do. And that's that. But for the other question about the Board of Trustees response, first time around was quite a lot of fun. The chair did not particularly like our some of our requests, understandably, but and then there were just a few comments that were not particularly in line, I think, with the goals of the student body. But after the election of the new chair, we've seen a pretty positive response to student advocacy. Anytime that we've had concerns, I've always felt very much so heard and respected by the chair, and as well as the vice chair. So all in all, like I think we'll get a pretty decent, like a pretty solid response from the current leadership. As for who has the most power, I would say the board carries some of the responsibility here, and then the investment council would be the other piece that primarily, I don't know what, who has the most say, but I know that they have a significant amount of say in where our investments go. And so it's worth, keeping that in mind too. I'm not sure if the investment council is like a part of the board or exactly what that structure is like. It's a really amorphous group. They don't have a contact information page or anything like that. So I'd say the board is the best bet, and then we can always plug and play elsewhere and get this where it needs to go.
All right. So there was a small friendly amendment in the chat while that was happening, just to add Lewis Richardson as a co-sponsor, and that's been seconded. All right. Overall, with this resolution, we are open for discussion on the entire piece as a whole. Is there any other discussion? Chairman Schler, can someone yield her time, just because I think it's been like a couple times, but thank you. All right, Chairman Schler.
I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, I generally have some reservations about I think maybe influence of a election of a student trustee. That is a little bit of an area of concern for me. I'm not going to make any formal motions on it. However, if anyone is involved in that like first of all, our advocacy could be to our president, who gets a say. I think that's appropriate. I'm not so sure about its appropriateness in this. However, again, I'm not going to make any formal motions. If you are involved in that process in any way, I suggest that you definitely abstain from voting for conflict of interest.
All right, with that, and I'll open up the floor for all discussion, but if any of the reps who are abstaining are able to explain why they're abstaining, the floor is open also for that. Also, that can't be forced out of you. So, but I know that's been brought up a couple times from fellow reps. So overall, is there any other discussion? Is there a second? There's a call to question. Is there a second? All right. Seeing a second, is there any discussion on this motion being made to close the floor? Seeing no discussion, motion will pass. And same thing, since it's a resolution, head over to Microsoft Teams. And I just sent the form. Again, as always, if you have any technical difficulties, please private message me. And let's see, if you go over to Microsoft Teams, go to the General Assembly channel, that's where the form will be. And yeah, don't take too long, just because, again, I don't want to be here all night. So if you can head over as soon as you can, that'd be great.
I had a quick question. So I went to the form and it just said submit the form. And so I don't.
It also happened to me and I submitted it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so did I.
Sorry.
Give me a sec. Okay. Here, I'm gonna
try now. I just refreshed the page. It might have not updated when I originally made it. It should work now.
Before anyone goes back, I'm gonna just also clear the responses. Just pause, everyone. Please don't use the form right now. All right, I just cleared all the responses. So if you inputted anything in the past like 10 seconds, it's not there. It's a completely clear form. So now head over to the form and cast your vote, and it should be fine now. We're missing a couple responses. I'm going to give it 30 seconds and then I'll be closing the form. All right, the form has been closed. Just give me a second before I get the final count. All right, resolution 5615, calling on the Pennsylvania State University to completely divest from fossil fuel holdings, passes with a vote of 28-2-4. All right, and with our last piece of legislation, we have line item E, Bill 2315, sexual violence awareness and prevention tabling. Representative Gibbard, if you'd like to introduce this.
Yeah, sure. Sydney Gibbard, College of Engineering. So basically, this kind of came up at our last SFAP roundtable meeting last Friday, and we talked about tangible things that we could do on campus during SFAP week. Usually there is tabling, and so this year we wanted to do some tabling, and it'll be once the weather gets nice. So we wanted to do something on the hub lawn, and we talked about potentially giving out succulents, kind of as just like representation of growth and development, and just like a calming presence. And all the succulents would be given out with pamphlets with all the SFAP related events for the week. So that would include different speakers, different workshops, honoring survival, when survivors come and speak about their experiences through either like poems or speeches or song. And so we'll also be we're also partnering with Line Ambassadors to do rock painting, which is a project that Line Ambassadors has partnered with Center Safe in the past. And basically you write like different empowering messages on the rocks. And so Diego Santos, the University Relations Director for Line Ambassadors, has agreed to kind of push the tabling sign-up sheets to Line Ambassadors. So they'll be helping out with tabling, and we're going to be buying the supplies for that. And other than that, also just like stickers related to SFAP for the week. And yeah, I actually had an amendment, but I'll just wait till discussion for that. But Kara, do you want to add anything else to that? I'm sure I forgot something.
No, honestly, that was great. And we'll have more of an update when we have like the finalized calendar. But yeah, most of the resources we're giving out will include those dates like Sydney mentioned, and we'll have a lot of more updates to come. But we're really excited about this, being able to do something tangible for the students and letting them know everything that's going on, and not just in a virtual setting.
All right, and with that, are there any questions? Seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Representative Gibbard, I know you had a friendly amendment.
Yeah, so in the first paragraph of the recommended course of action, like with the dates, I was going to start it on Friday, April 2nd, and then it ends on Tuesday, April 6th, I believe is the date. Because there's a wellness day on that Wednesday, so I didn't want to host tabling on that day. And then I had one more, but I don't know if that needs a second.
Yeah, I'll just get a quick second for this one. Anyone? Cool. You can go with the second one if you have one.
Stephen, it's so it's Friday, April 2nd through Tuesday, April 6th. Like obviously we won't table on the weekend, but just to explain those dates. But then the other one was just to amend the type 40 statement to whatever it is for the amount left.
And just to see a second for that. All right. All right, cool. And with that, are there any, wow, is there any other discussion?
I have two friendly amendments. First, to add line numbers, and the other one is to change the heading to the updated one for 15th Assembly.
Yeah, a second for that. I'll take both since they're, yeah, cool. Any other discussion? Representative Gibbard?
Sorry, Sydney Giver, College of Engineering. One last thing. This is officially technically after our terms end, but I think it would be a really great opportunity for anyone who kind of wants to hang out, socially distance outside. I feel like it will be a little bit calming, painting the rocks and like interacting with other people on campus, and like also educating them about some really cool events. So I really do highly encourage people to sign up to table. It should be really nice weather, and line ambassadors will be there as well. So yeah.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will now close the floor. And same procedure, since this is a bill, it does require a roll call vote. So Speaker Zong, when you're ready, you may start the roll call.
Arthi Kalor,
Yes.
Adeline Mishler,
Yes.
Alexander Wu, Amy Gary,
Yes.
Anna Taylor,
Yes.
Anne-Marie Ron Sorensen, Blake Tolliver,
Yes.
Brian Schultz,
Yes.
Cameron McColgan,
Yes.
Kathy Minetti Zhao, Kara Fleegle, Carter Gangle,
Yes.
Dan Risser,
Yes.
Emmanuel Monte,
Yes.
Aaron Bowes,
Yes.
Jean-Marc Miller,
Yes.
Rasha Reynolds,
Yes.
Kaylee Quinnen, Cara DeLucio, Kelly Snyder,
Yes.
Kyle Quinn,
Yes.
I got you, Kara, Lakey Meter,
Yes.
Lewis Richardson,
Yes.
Marie Meisner,
Yes.
Maddie McIntyre,
Yes.
Megan Dalo,
Yes.
Najee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Noah Robertson,
Yes.
Patricia Baranji,
Yes.
Rainier Foley Di Fiore,
Yes.
Raina Alexander,
Yes.
Refugio Lara,
Yes.
Ryan Lascalzo,
Yes.
Samantha Brown. Got you. Sarah Jordan,
Yes.
Siddhi Deshpande,
Yes.
Sophia Palio. I vote yes. Sydney Gibbard
Yes.
and Shaoru Shi.
Yes.
Was anyone's name not called?
All right, Bill 2315, Sexual Violence Awareness and Prevention Tabling passes unanimously and specifically with a vote of 34-0. All right, with that, we will move on to a report by the Chief Justice of the Judicial Board, Chief Justice Saya.
Hey everyone, I hope everyone's having a great week and great St. Patrick's Day. Just some updates from the Judicial Board and the Elections Commission. We had the first legislative town hall yesterday. Yesterday's was pertaining to the academic college representatives. The recording for that can be found on the UPUA Facebook and YouTube. As well, tomorrow we have the first at-large representative legislative town hall. That is going to take place at 7:00 p.m. and will also be streamed on the Facebook and later posted to the YouTube. And then the next at-large representative legislative town hall will take place on Monday, March 22nd. And at the same time, will also be streamed on the same places. And the executive debate will be taking place on Thursday, March 25th, also at 7:00 in the same places. And just a reminder that elections are going to be taking place March 31st from 12 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we'll be seeing some more graphics coming out regarding encouraging write-in candidates and voter awareness coming soon. And also from the judicial side of things, Speaker Zhang and I have been working on some revisions to the judicial board and a possible policy that may be coming up next week. If anybody has any questions regarding that, please feel free to bring them up, and any questions on at all regarding elections or that, I'm very willing to take them.
All right, are there any questions for Chief Justice Saya? Representative Loscalzo?
Ryan Loscalzo, Line Pride Representative. My question pertains to next week. There's going to be a policy introduced to have a referendum question for during the spring elections. I just wanted to make sure that that actually is possible, like it would be feasible on the judicial boards or the election commission's end to implement that within the time frame.
Yes, absolutely. So this was the idea was actually floated around, I believe, last week. So I spoke with Harlina Munnings regarding if the election software would, if it would work on that software, and she said very much so.
Are there any questions? Are there any other questions for Chief Justice Saya? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to executive reports. Is there an executive, or if there are any executive directors with a report, please raise your hand. President McKay.
Hello, not exactly an executive director, but delivering a report on some. There was a message sent in Teams letting people know about some time slots to sign up for headshots. Our own Kathy Zhao, Executive Director of the First Year Council, has offered to help take some professional headshots for members of the UPUA. It's been a long time coming, been kind of hard to at the start of the assembly because none of us were in person, and then things were really limited on campus here. So the time slots will be set up in a way which doesn't unfortunately allow for a group shot or anything like that. But if you're interested, you can come by and pick yours up free of charge. And it's usually, you know, something great to put on a LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that. And that's it.
All right. Are there any other executive reports? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to report by the Speaker of the Assembly, Speaker Zhang.
Yeah, hi everyone. 2 weeks left, almost done. But thanks for coming along for the ride. It was definitely crazy with the middle of the pandemic and everything. But I think that it's been great just having to talk to all of you guys and really get to have an amazing year. So yeah, we're not done yet. There's still a lot that we can get done within the next week or two. So definitely keep going. And also as a reminder that the assembly technically does not end until March 31st. So although next week is going to be the last week we can pass legislation and stuff, you still retain your, well, actually, technically, you still retain your representative status until the next assembly is sworn in, I believe, because you never formally leave office. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. Don't cut it off by the end of next week if you're almost on the completion or on the edge of finishing things. If we get that last big push in for advocacy, make every second count. So I do have a meeting coming up tomorrow with Chair Rodriguez, President McKay, Director Zhao, and Barry on financial support for UPUA, looking at the work study program, other ways that we can maybe get funding for students. If you have any questions, suggestions about where else we can look, we definitely appreciate that. We're meeting some roadblocks already in just terms of logistics and everything. So yeah, it's going to be hopefully a productive meeting and something that we can carry on at the next assembly. Next week, I have a meeting set with global programs again to hopefully make progress on the translation initiative. I think it's something that's going to follow into next assembly, or I'll probably take either within or outside of UPUA, no matter where that happens. But I'd love to get that as something that is on the university's agenda before I leave my time next year, which, you know, I guess I'm old too now. So two other things. Policy changes, I sent them out tonight. They're both constitutional changes requiring 3/4 of the assembly total vote to pass. So I would really, really highly encourage everyone to be here next week. I know we've had some dangerous times in the past where we barely meet quorum to even get a vote passed, even if it's 100% yeses. And it's even tougher because we won't be able to bring them back up at the end of this assembly because next week is our last assembly meeting. Definitely look at them. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions beforehand. One is working with Chief Justice Zaya on doing some of the judicial board amendments and changes for clarifications, as well as talking about potentially making elections almost like a year-round thing for them so that they're not scrambling for time in spring after we pass elections code to start working on everything. The other one is going to be a changes just from the executive ad hoc and then the other ad hocs that have been going on the entire year. I know we've had a hiatus in the spring, but we had a lot of great ideas in the fall that were culminating together. I think that they're pretty good in terms of just clarifying a lot of the changes we made this year. Also just to keep things from getting super convoluted. It's to the tune of what Ryan brought forward with the liaison changes, where I think a lot of it just adds a lot of clarity to a lot of the processes we have now, and will make transitions a lot less of a headache for future assemblies as well as their leadership. Other than that, again, definitely for leadership, for everyone, please make sure transition documents are in place. Reach out if you have any questions for myself or any other leadership about the end of the assembly, the next assembly, etc. We're always happy to kind of talk more about our UPUA experiences, where you want to go, what you want to do in the assembly, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I'll stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Speaker Zhang? Representative Robertson?
Mine is just a quick question, but I saw like the at-large vacancies aren't being filled like for this assembly, which makes sense because our terms are so close to ending. My question is just, are those vacancies also going to be like with the vote count for all of the policies? Just because I know like we'd be missing 2 people. I don't know if that's being taken into consideration.
Yeah. Oh, and also I forgot to speak on that. Sorry. We did host an interview on that one candidate, and then we voted 2 to 3 against them. And you can see the policy, the Word document with our explanation, and reach out to me if any questions on that for anyone. But also with the vacancies, we don't count them for the 3/4. So if we lose 2 people and it jumps down to the next number, we just need 3/4 of everyone who's present in assembly and not including vacancies.
All right, are there any other questions for Speaker Zhang? Representative Richardson?
This is more of a general one, but sort of along the lines of vacancies. It was kind of inspired by Representative Robertson's question. But I noticed that like amongst academic reps, and I'm not sure if you can really provide any context to this, but amongst academic reps registered for the next like assembly, or at least the election, there's a ton of vacancies. I think we only have like 6 reps amongst like the 15 or 16 colleges here running, all of which are uncontested in their colleges. So has there been any like conversations amongst steering, or maybe amongst, just like people in leadership in general, about what we'll do if we have like 10 colleges with no representatives going into the next assembly?
Yeah, we brought it up in steering last week after we had the official list of who was running. I believe Chair Barunji wanted to have a conversation in AAC about that, at least just to make sure that you guys are able to maybe advocate a bit more for people to run. I would say, number one, the ballot is technically still open for writing candidates. So even if there's no one running, if someone is interested in position, they can write them in. And because there's no competition, I don't want to say it like we get people in just to get people in, but if you can get people who are interested, they can do a write-in ballot submission, or I guess have that for multiple people too, if you want to try to get like a one last energized push for the different respective academic colleges to get more people to run. Other than that, if they're still not filled, I think we can still do campaigns at the beginning of next assembly for the next leadership to try to get people to fill those vacancies. We typically try to get most of them filled as soon as possible, but yeah, I would say write-ins are one way that people can still get on the ballot, even if they're not a part of it, and I think it's going to be a good way to encourage competition. And the other one is that if not, we'll try to fill those vacancies as quickly as possible, just reaching out to the colleges throughout this month, next month, etc.
Chair Jordan.
I don't know if like Sarah Jordan at large, can I like say like something discussion point, or can it only be a question?
Allow it.
Okay.
Like
It was just a
it's relevant.
suggestion
Yeah.
for the academic seats. Like if you are academic seat like right now, I guess like one way I think you could like help out Patty and like filling those seats, just like sending it to your student council of some sort, just letting them know about it. I think that's the one thing that's happened in the past. Like people just don't like maybe understand the difference between at-large academic seats. I know I'm not one like for myself, but that could just be something little that we do as UPUA like to outreach to other people. I'll put it out there. Thanks.
All right. Are there any other questions for speakers on? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to comments of the committee, starting with academic affairs.
Hi guys, thanks so much for discussing AAC so heavily tonight. Just kind of to elaborate on those points, definitely have been having discussions about what is going on with the vacancies in AAC with other leadership, and we're definitely going to be encouraging people to do write-ins. But additionally, I will be having a conversation committee with reps about different ways that they can kind of spread this information, not only to their respective councils, but just within the specific bubbles within each college. So that's going to be something that we're going to work on, especially because it's so important that we have most of those seats filled before at least before the fall starts, because as you guys know, academic reps are also faculty senators, and it really does not play well when we don't have those seats filled, because it is a privilege for UPUA to just automatically get those seats. So my goal is really just going to be to help as much as I can to make sure they're filled at least by the start of the fall. That way there's not confusion because then what faculty senate does is they kind of take it upon themselves to get the college to nominate a student senator, and that gets really confusing and jumbled because communication, obviously. But yeah, and also just want to let you know, the test prep week legislation will be coming. I was going to bring it tonight, but chose not to because we didn't get everybody to vote in committee. And additionally, I just wanted to have more conversation because I want to have the test prep week probably after our terms end, and I want to make sure like that's all organized and we don't drop the ball on that and end up not having people able to actually table or show up, because the goal is to get rid of the rest of the books, and there are a lot of books. So I'm gonna bring that through committee and just have more discussion on it, and then we'll see it next week. But other than that, I'm trying to think. Other than that, faculty senate went well. Discussions were pretty effective, mainly revolving around things that weren't super student centered, Penn State accreditation, stuff like that. But it went pretty well and nothing too concerning that we should be thinking about. But if anybody has any more specific questions about what went on in each of the committees, I have notes, so just let me know. Other than that, no other major updates. But have a great rest of your night.
Are there any questions for Chair Barungi? Representative Lascalzo?
Ryan Lascalzo, a Lion Pride representative. This question kind of just popped in my head, so it's not just addressed towards Chair Barungi, but kind of a lot of the members of steering. You guys talked about like trying to encourage write-ins and stuff, but many of you are currently running for re-election as well. How will you guys try to make sure you don't violate the like mutual endorsement, like helping each other out clause that we have currently to prevent like, I just don't want you guys to get disqualified for trying to encourage people. So like, what are you guys going to do about that?
Yeah, that's definitely been a conversation. Me and Najee are literally like thinking about it. We're like, we don't want to make it seem like we're like conspiring to pack the assembly or anything. It's just a matter of like really trying to focus the language around. We want more representation in the UPUA, make sure that like students are engaged. So the communication isn't like, you, my friend, write yourself in as a candidate, but mainly just like, hi, like the UPUA still has a lot of spots, elections are coming up. If you want to get involved, like spread it within your circles, and just know that like even if you weren't able to formally register, there are opportunities to write in as a candidate if you think someone is really like qualified and passionate about this. So really focusing the language towards that and not making it a personal / really like you know what I mean, not making it anything like trying to recruit people. It's very just innocent, making sure that we have like a full assembly, making sure that there is representation maintained within UPUA. So that's what I've really tried to do, and I encourage everybody to do the same. I feel like there's no harm in sharing the information and letting people know, because I know there are people out there who want to get involved with UPUA. Just rhetoric is important.
Yeah, also as a
Every single time I try to mute, I just turn my camera off, and I'm sorry.
also as a PSA, I'd hope that no one would report that kind of encouragement as a violation. And I would hope the judicial board's like, that's not a violation. All right, are there any other questions for Chair Barunji? Not trying to influence the judicial board in any way, but as like a person that's not had zero stake in this election, just offering my perspective. Okay, we'll move on with facilities. Chair Jordan.
Hi everyone, Sarah Jordan at large. So I did get the graphics for the from Transportation Commission for the zip car announcement, as well as a bike friendly campus. So I will send them over to Chrissy to post on our social medias either tonight or in the morning. Just make sure you can share them if possible. They're pretty excited about both of those, so helping them out in their avenues will be great. Secondly, I know the hype about the hub meeting this morning. So in my kind of context from that, for the hub space allocation committee, there are right now 27 open spaces. So if you are a student org and want to apply for it, the application are due March 26th. So it's quickly approaching. Please, 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 if you need to spread the word or you want to apply for a space, do so. We really want to get as much engagement as we can, especially this year. Kind of being different. We're trying to bring things back to normal. With this new phase, RSOs are allowed to have in-person meetings, which is exciting. And the events can be held up to 90 minutes. So that's exciting. But let me know if you have any questions. I will be sitting on that committee just because I'm the chair of it, so that even if this term ends, I'll still be that until the end of like deciding everything. So reach out to me if you have anything. And then I know the Chick-fil-A news is really upsetting, but don't worry, it's happening nationally, so it's not just us, if that makes you feel any better. But going forward with that, me, Megan, or Representative Dalo and Representative Zhao finally had a meeting to discuss our drug awareness virtual campaign. So I sent that over to make graphics. If possible, please post them when they are made and created on our social media, probably the end of next week. Really important to spread the word and just kind of see all of the work that's been done with the engineering capstone team from the beginning of the year to now. But yeah, that's kind of all from me. Reach out if you have any questions. Facilities, we meet on Sunday for the last official time of this assembly. So please be there if you can. Let me know if you can't. Text me by Sunday morning. But that's all I have. Have a great night, everyone. Hang in there. I know not having spring break right now is a little tough for me. Prioritize mental health. You can do it. We're almost there. Week 10, 9, I don't know, but we're good. Yes, that's all I have. See you all later.
All right, are there any questions for Chair Jordan? And also, I know the cap was 10. I would just say if we were on legislation right now and it was 10 p.m., fair, but we're kind of in reports or we're wrapping up. So I'd hope no one motions to end the meeting right now. All right, seeing no questions for Chair Jordan, we'll move into governmental affairs with Chair Risser.
Hi, everyone. So tomorrow night, last Gov Affairs meeting of the year. Very exciting. And we have a very special guest speaker joining us. The queen herself of Center County government, Miss Laura Shadle, is coming to talk to us about the importance of student engagement in local elections. It'll be a nice nonpartisan event. I think she has like a half hour to speak to us. So she'll do a little speech. We'll have time for some Q&A. So that's open to the whole assembly. So I highly encourage you. Local elections are something that affects us all. So please come out, learn a little more. Laura's a great resource for any committee in UPUA. In addition to that, Capital Day next Thursday, March 25th. Go to advocate.psu.edu to sign up. That a lot of it's going to be virtual. So yeah, really show your support for Penn State. Capitol Day plays a huge role in Penn State's standing with our state officials. So that's all from me. Take care of yourself. Let's finish this strong.
All right, are there any questions for Chair Risser? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to Justice and Equity with Chair Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday, almost Thursday in a few hours. Just quickly going through some key topics. I won't cry, but Justice and Equity's last meeting is, I'm joking, I'm not crying, but I will cry if you come to the meeting this Friday at 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're willing to see that, come on over, it'll be fun. Please bring any final legislation to be introduced. Arthi, Hope, and I have something special for you all, so we'll get into that when you get there. It's going to be a moment. We will also be going into, we'll be having a meeting as well with Dr. Griffin for those on the Center for Health Equity team and his staff for the final pushes for the center before the close of the assembly. We'll also be brainstorming additions for an official report on the Wally Triplet and Just Yarnell commemoration pieces, as well as ideas for the Indigenous land acknowledgement that takes into account a living land acknowledgement. So that's super exciting. Thank you to Representative Alexander, Ankler, and Gibbard for the work done on student disability resources graphics. I've seen those and they're excellent. So I'll be really looking forward to connecting with Director Zimmerman on more information about the roundtable that will hopefully take place next semester. I'm sorry, the next assembly, and then of course the release of the graphics, hopefully in the beginning of next assembly if representatives decide to continue with that project. I will also be opening Google Docs for all representatives to put in just kind of thoughts about how the year went, what could be done better for the next representatives in the committee, and kind of the work that you've already started that you'd like to see continued as an open letter. So I'd encourage everyone to participate. That'd be very well appreciated. Also, as a final thought, I will address the elephant in the room here. Do I have a rose and touching? Okay, awesome. I do want to implore everyone in this room to acknowledge the representation that's on the ballot this year. There's not much, and that's obviously disappointing to see. And I know a lot of you have resonated with that and have spoken about it openly, and I appreciate that. I would encourage you to reach out to groups that need the representation the most and really inquire about what you can do to be a true advocate, given that there still is a deficit of people of color in the assembly and just from underrepresented backgrounds. And I would continue to implore you to communicate with the community groups on really encouraging write-ins or just other forms of campaigns, because that's exactly what we need. And we've been doing such good work. And I'd hate to fall back on representation because we've had a really good assembly this year. So I would implore you to do that. And I really hope that you all take that into account. If you are running, if you are not part of those communities, I would also urge you to reach out to those communities, ask to speak with members, ask what you can advocate for, because unfortunately, there's just not the representation that we need or will continue to need in this assembly. So please do that. It'd be well appreciated. And I know they would also appreciate that outreach as well. Thank you. I will see you on Friday. Be there, be square. I'm really excited to wrap this assembly up. It'll be sad, but we'll be doing it together. So thank you. Have a great rest of your night. Bye.
All right, with that, are there any questions for Chair Rodriguez? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to student life with Chair Mishler.
Hi, everyone. I will be super brief. So two kind of outstanding events. I'm so sorry if you hear my roommates. The Sue's event is happening next Friday. I am so excited. We met with her this week to just kind of do some planning and preparations. I'm so excited for that conversations. We have so many co-sponsors who have come on board to help us push it out to students. So please also assist us with that, getting it to your communities. And then also continuing to prepare for our Chanel Miller event, which we're about a month out from. So plenty of prep to do there as well in terms of script and scheduling and things of that sort. So look for graphics coming down the pipeline. On Friday, I have a few different meetings. One, I will be attending a employer roundtable with career services to provide student input on the career services process and career services resources, and hopefully get some permanent student representation on that board. But I'm just introducing what UPUA is and things of that sort, and the committee and what we're doing. Super fun there. Planning Night of Remembrance events, which is the event that honors Penn State students who have passed away. And that event happens April 29th. So going through all the different approvals and collaborating with the other student governments on making that event possible. So if you're continuing to be involved in UPUA or even just you're involved in this assembly, really hope that you support that event and those Penn Staters. Committee tomorrow. Okay. Next week and next Thursday is Capitol Day. So that's super important. I'm speaking at Capitol Day. So please share your support, sign up and take action, share the social media videos and stuff like of that sort. Super important that we do that in these times. And tomorrow, our final committee at 6 p.m. via Zoom. I ask for your flexibility. I'm speaking at the State of State Conference at 5. So if there's any sort of delays, we're gonna be running it close. Either way, the Zoom link will be open. So if you want to go in there and chat within the committee, just about how the year has been going, areas that we could have improved or areas you want to incorporate in the future, go in there, have that discussion. I will talk with the vice chair and some reps just to kind of facilitate that dialogue. But I really do hope to be there on time just to kind of wrap things up for the year. If you need me, if I can be helpful in any way, please reach out to me inside of UPUA, outside of UPUA, whatever your little heart desires. That's all.
All right. Are there any questions for Chair Mishler? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to comments of the good of the order. I'll start with one. Next week, obviously, is the last assembly. Just as kind of like a reminder to anyone that's new to UPUA, since it is the last assembly, we take the comments of the good of the order just to kind of say goodbyes, thank yous, any words of wisdom, etc. It's another assembly in the books, so it's definitely meaningful. And so just as a reminder, if you're a newer rep and want to prepare anything, just as like putting that out there. But yeah, are there any other comments for the good of the order? Representative Lascalzo.
Ryan Lascalzo, Line Pride Representative. First, I'd like to thank everyone for passing the policy I made this week. I really appreciate it. I'd also like to remind you all that there's 3 policies potentially coming up next week, 2 of which I believe deal with the Constitution, which have the higher threshold. So please come out, please make it efficient. Please, if you have any issues, say it beforehand, because no one wants a really long meeting. And those things pretty much all need to be done before the end of the assembly. So we're probably going to vote to extend the meeting if we have to. And then finally, in terms of election stuff, write-ins, anything like that, please reach out. We want to have great representation there. I want to help out any way I can. I think we all need to work together to coordinate getting the word out about these things. It's not just the election commissions or steering's job, it's all of our jobs. So I just want to put that out there. If you guys need any, Lion Pride resources or anything, reach out to me. And if I have any, LGBT candidates, I'll definitely reach out to you all. But yeah, that's kind of it.
All right. Are there any other comments for the good of the order? President McKay.
Super quick. I just want to remind everyone about the Penn State Council of Sustainable Leaders event coming up on this Friday. There are 2, both this Friday and next Friday at 12 o'clock. This Friday, we'll be talking about youth movements and the environmental justice movement as a whole, presented by Corrine Talo, Esquire. She's an advocate for environmental justice, civil rights, and voter protection, who currently serves as the Director of Federal Legislative Affairs for We Act for Environmental Justice. Really exciting stuff. You can find more information about that at pennstatecsl.com. And I think it's also in the Teams chat, so just go ahead and look for it there.
All right, Representative Deshpande.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for passing the resolution on divestment. I'm really excited to see where this could go. And thank you, everyone, for your contributions and your amendments you added. And yeah, I just wanted to say that.
All right. Any other comments for the good of the order? All right, seeing none and knowing that Speaker Zong has taken closing roll call, this meeting is adjourned at 10:15 p.m. Have a wonderful night and wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you all soon.
Bye.
Have a good one. Come down to Pollock if you're around here. Learn how to dance. It's fun.
I'll take you up on that next year.
Do it. Do it.
Bye, everybody.
Also, I was so tempted to fight at the 15-minute mark. 3 hours. I don't know. I don't like the president. Let's cut it. Next week we'll extend it. We'll go to extend it. But
Yeah, I feel like that's going to happen, but all right. Good night, everyone.
have a good one.